Our story kicks off with a guy sprinting through the streets, introducing himself as Ju In-gong. His parents literally named him Protagonist, which basically made him a walking meme for bullies. He endured years of teasing, but deep down, he craved that legendary hero energy for himself. He hits up a game shop where the regulars recognize the legend has finally arrived. Ignoring the banter, he asks the owner if the long-awaited masterpiece has finally dropped. The shopkeeper hands over Night Saga R, the high-stakes remake of an absolute classic. It's an epic saga of humans versus demons where players typically choose luck. You either play as the human savior or Zephyr Ranjaro, the Demon King's elite son. Ju In-gong is a total pro, having cleared the original game over 10 times. He knows every secret chest and hidden quest by heart, but this remake is different. This is the era of full immersion VR, and Night Saga R is the ultimate test. Back home, he gears up, sliding the chip into his high-tech VR helmet for the dive. Trembling with excitement, he promises himself a chill 8-hour session to start things off. Suddenly, he wakes up, staring at a blinding ceiling, wondering if the server load actually worked. Usually you start in a cozy bed, but something feels dangerously off this time around. Looking down, he realizes this body isn't his. This definitely isn't the main hero's skin. A gravelly voice barks at him to wake up, because they've got a massive day ahead. Ju In-gong is stunned by the hyper-realistic environment. It's literally indistinguishable from the real world. When he mentions the graphics, a massive orc looks at him like he's lost his mind. The NPC's AI is terrifyingly fluid, way beyond what any advertisement ever promised. He asks the beast's name and it identifies as Carrick before calling him Prince Shutra. Panic sets in as he realizes he's Shutra Ignis, the Demon King's most pathetic ninth son. He didn't even get a character select screen, the game just forced him into this trash role. Opening his status, he's a level 1 weakling with stats that are honestly just embarrassing. Even a basic mob has better stats, but 2 unique skills catch his eye immediately. One is called Conquest, but Protagonist's setting adjustment sounds like a literal cheat code. Before he can process it, Carrick screams at him to move, forcing him into action. He steps outside to find a massive legion of orcs prepped for a bloody war. The vibes are heavy. Carrick reveals they're hunting the rebellious Red Thunder tribe right now. This is no tutorial, it's a baptism by fire, on a real-deal battlefield. The Red Thunder orcs have declared war, and the royal family is moving to crush them. They're backing up the higher-ranked siblings, but why only bring a squad of 10? Carrick insists he explained this yesterday. Today was only supposed to be a simple patrol. Ju In-gong is lost, and Carrick starts getting suspicious of the prince's weird behavior. Thank God the minimap works. He locks it onto his HUD to avoid getting lost. He spots a glitchy hidden path on the map and smells a secret event nearby. Telling Carrick the main road is too slow, he leads them toward a dangerous shortcut. They trek through dense woods and scale jagged cliffs until Ju In-gong is nearly dead. But they find it a hidden zone sealed behind 2 massive ancient stone gates. Carrick is baffled, asking how a weak prince found this place, or if he's a mage. His stamina is absolute garbage, but he's determined to see what's behind those heavy doors. Suddenly, golden light flares around him. Notification. He just leveled up from walking. Every stat jumps by 2 points. This protagonist setting is absolutely broken, and I love it. The gates begin to crumble open. Carrick grips his weapon, ready to charge inside. Ju In-gong doesn't know what's waiting, but with his squad, it's time to get that loot. A true protagonist doesn't perish from a cliff dive, they stumble into destiny. They descend into the cave's gaping dark maw. Carrick identifies it as a dwarf tunnel, but Ju In-gong scoffs, knowing dwarves shouldn't inhabit this specific territory. They belong in the demon realm. Yet Carrick explains they abandoned these ancestral tunnels ages ago. When asked about the migration, Carrick admits the truth is buried in ancient orc legends and tribal whispers. Deep within the cavern, a shimmering light pierces the gloom. A massive hoard of treasure awaits them. Abandoned steel and relics litter the ground. The orcs howl with greed, scavenging every piece of gear they find. They cheer over the legendary dwarven loot, but Ju In-gong remains a silent observer amidst the chaos. He's paralyzed by his own weakness. High-level requirements and pathetic stats lock him out of using anything. He decides to hoard the gear anyway, mentally plotting how to transport this massive mountain of iron. With a whispered command, the item vanishes into thin air, tucked safely inside his high-tech inventory system. It works perfectly. Touch, think, and claim. Suddenly his eyes snap to the minimap as red icons swarm the edge. Hostiles. He instantly recognizes the threat and bellows a desperate warning for everyone to retreat. Without warning, the cavern wall detonates in a violent explosion, sending orcs spiraling through the smoke and debris. A monstrous figure emerges, a Red Thunder orc. Commander Kaysen declares that their deaths were already foretold. Kaysen roars a bloodthirsty command to slaughter them all. The cave erupts into a symphony of chaotic violence. Ju In-gong's allies are butchered in waves. Despite their resistance, they are hopelessly outnumbered by the elite red orcs. As the slaughter intensifies, Ju In-gong watches from the shadows, calculating if he can harvest some quick experience points. He creeps behind a distracted red orc, preparing to strike a lethal cowardly blow from the darkness. He lunges with everything he's got, but his blades shatter instantly. He stares horrified at his broken, useless metal. The red orc turns, eyes burning with fury. Ju In-gong panics, screaming as he bolts in absolute terror. He trips face-planting into the dirt. A system alert flashes, 14 health lost with only 5 mana remaining. The orc looms over him, ready to deliver a killing stroke. Suddenly, Karak intercepts the blade just in time. Karak screams for him to move, but Ju In-gong is frozen, his body locked in a state of pure paralysis. His limbs tremble violently. He tries to tell himself it's a game, but the scent of death is too real. Desperate to survive, he frantically pulls up the menu, clawing for a way to escape this living nightmare. The realism is soul-crushing. His character sheet reveals a shocking secret. His species is listed as the Divine Gandharva. There's no logout button and no active skills. Panic sets in as the grim reality of his trap sinks in. As he searches for an exit, Caitlin locks onto him, her lips moving in a deadly, rhythmic, magical chant. A barrage of magical bolts rains down, tearing through his flesh. Searing pain explodes as he's blasted backward. He slams against the stone wall, his vision blurring into darkness as his consciousness begins to drift away. He wakes in a silent, endless void. He wonders if this hollow space is the afterlife Caitlin sent him to. A golden radiance erupts. A mysterious woman's voice echoes, claiming he is bound to this world by threads of fate. She commands him to conquer and rule through the path of absolute iron-fisted subjugation. She reaches out her heterochromatic eyes, 2 different piercing colors, staring straight into his very soul. Before he can speak, the light swallows him whole. Back in the cave, the green orcs are losing hope. Kaysen joins the fray, mocking the pathetic group for daring to challenge his tribe's overwhelming might. He tires of the sport and orders his warriors to finish the massacre once and for all. Ju In-gong stands up, his aura shifted. Kaysen gapes in disbelief that the boy is still breathing. A system notification blazes across his vision. Telekinesis level 1 has been successfully acquired. He mutters in confusion, wondering how he unlocked such a high-tier skill in the middle of a slaughter. His secondary job transforms Knight of Conquest. Kaysen senses the danger and commands everyone to kill the boy. Karak roars, ordering his men to form a wall of flesh. The prince must be protected at all costs. Ju In-gong stares at his screen. This hidden legendary class never existed in the original game he knew. He drives his blade into the earth, feeling an ancient, instinctive power surge through his veins like wildfire. He glares at the enemy, proclaiming that conquest is the destiny of kings. Under the king's banner, radiant gold mana erupts from his core, washing over the orcish ranks. The divine enhancement ignites their blood. Roaring with newfound primal fury, the greenskins surge forward. They crash into the Red Thunder tribe like an unstoppable tsunami. A single orc pierces a foe's ribcage with a bare-fisted strike. Blades are useless now. They have become living weapons of destruction. Keaton's composure shatters as he screams in disbelief. His eyes frantically trail the shimmering trails of gold back to the source. The light leads straight to Ju In-gong. Consumed by rage, Keaton unleashes 4 lethal strikes in a desperate blitz. Ju In-gong doesn't flinch. In a heartbeat, Karak interposes himself, parrying every blow with terrifying ease. Seeing his guardian's prowess, Ju In-gong smirks. He commands a full-scale offensive, his aura supercharging Karak's every stride. Despair sinks into Keaton's soul as the battlefield shifts. His desperate pleas for mercy fall on deaf ears as Karak lunges. With one brutal swing, Keaton's head is severed cleanly. Seeing their chieftain's decapitated remains, the Red Thunder survivors scatter in terror. The victorious orcs hunt down the stragglers with bloodthirsty cries. Suddenly, a glowing system prompt flickers before Ju In-gong's eyes. A sovereign claims his general's glory. 3 successive level-up notifications chime in his ears. Gasping for air, Ju In-gong questions the sheer absurdity of it all. Across the field, Karak watches him with a mixture of shock and suspicion. His gaze softens into pure reverence. Could this once useless prince truly be the architect of this battlefield miracle? Sheltered within the base camp, Ju In-gong swipes through his interface in a panic. The same muttered denial escapes his lips. The exit button is missing. It's simply gone. Clenching his fists, he struggles to suppress the rising tide of hysteria. Inhale, exhale. He analyzes the situation. Is this a deep dive glitch waiting for an external patch? Or is he facing a far darker reality? One where the game mechanics have become his new breathing existence. This is some straight-up Isekai tropes. He's been transported into a realm that merely mirrors his favorite RPG. The hyper-realistic detail of his surroundings is terrifying. Every blade of grass screams that this is no mere simulation. The biting chill of the air and the authentic ring of stone against stone are too visceral to be code. He observes with dark humor that even his physical form is rendered with uncensored anatomical precision. This minor detail solidifies his fear. He hasn't just logged in. He has crossed a threshold into another dimension. A chilling realization creeps into his mind. Is death the only log-out option left for him? He shudders instantly, discarding that suicidal theory. He isn't nearly reckless enough to test that hypothesis today. At least he isn't some hideous monster. Better yet, he occupies the body of royal nobility. He is the ultimate VIP in this world. Fate has dealt him a winning hand. Suddenly, Carrick steps inside. The warrior requests a private audience. Ju In-gong officially adopts his new persona, Prince Shutra. Embracing the name, everyone echoes. Shutra asks for his purpose. Carrick's request is simple, a formal duel. He argues that a leader's mettle must be tested. As a loyal vassal, he needs to witness his master's combat prowess. He needs to know what his lord is truly capable of. Shutra eyes him, skeptically smelling a hidden motive. Handing over a wooden blade, Carrick promises to pull his punches. Shutra laughs off the patronizing gesture. If we are fighting, let us make it count, he declares. Without warning, he explodes forward in an opening strike. Carrick remains stoic, as Shutra's blade rains down. A flurry of desperate thrusts follows the initial overhead smash. The massive orc doesn't even flinch. He dryly notes that Shutra's attacks carry the weight of a falling feather. With a casual flick of his wrist, Carrick sends the prince tumbling across the dirt. Wincing Shutra massages his aching skull. He grumbles about the lack of a heads-up before the impact. But as he stands, a notification pings in his vision. Basic Swordsmanship Level 1, unlocked. The realization hits him like a lightning bolt. It all makes sense now. Mirroring his telekinetic awakening, he theorizes a new growth mechanic. This world rewards direct experience. He learns by enduring the techniques himself. Carrick moves to call off the training session, satisfied with the thrashing. The orc suggests dinner, but Shutra's gaze sharpens. He refuses to quit, readjusting his grip on the training sword. His next assault is surgical and precise. Carrick parries easily, but his eyebrows rise at the sudden technical growth. The orc puzzles over Shutra's sudden evolution. Despite no level changes, his muscle memory is adapting at an impossible rate. Another heavy swing sends Shutra retreating. A grin spreads across the warrior's face as the real fun begins. He probes the prince about his power level. Carrick boasts of his own rank 21 status as Shutra summons his stats. I will surpass you in no time, he retorts. His screen reveals a humble level 7, but here, numbers are just the start. While others rely on clunky spells to check power, he sees raw levels instantly. He's got the ultimate cheat, full stat access and manual point allocation. Absolute game breaker. He lunges forward, the ground cracking as he trades a blur of strikes with Carrick. Every blow is surgical. He realizes his potential isn't just growing, it's evolving rapidly. His growth is straight up exponential, shattering human limits. But a dark future is brewing. This story isn't a straight line. World-shaking events are looming just over the horizon. The most brutal one, a blood-soaked tragedy known as the Day of the Massacre. Year 517. A date etched in demon history. That's when Zephyr snaps. The Demon King's second son slaughters every last brother to seize the throne alone. Shutra is on that hit list. Luckily, it's only 512. 5 years left. To survive, he must stop the slaughter. He has to become stronger than Zephyr. Carrick finally tracks him down, frantic. Shutra just blinks. Yo, what's the rush? The meeting, remember, Carrick groans. Shutra's mind is blank. Meeting. What meeting? No time to argue. Back at camp, Shutra finds himself seated before his royal siblings. His older siblings are already waiting. He offers a nervous, awkward laugh for arriving late. 7th, Prince, Chris Moonlight smirks. Drop the act, Shutra. We're family. Just chill out. Then there's Princess Caitlin the 8th. Finally, she says, meeting our little brother in person. Forget the formalities, Chris adds. Just call us Big Bro and Sis. Shutra complies. They're children of Queen Elaine, the lycanthrope ruler. Total powerhouses in the original game. He remembers them well. In the game's timeline, they were absolute nightmares to fight. But here's the catch. A year before the massacre, both Chris and Caitlin die. Zephyr purged them personally. Their Moonlight bloodline was a massive threat to his crown. Caitlin had a secret too. She wasn't the king's real daughter. She was illegitimate. Caitlin narrows her eyes. Why'd you go rogue? I told you to scout, not brawl. Didn't expect company, he shrugs. She steps into his personal space, checking him over. Are you hurt? You need to be more careful, seriously. Her concern is actually real. You're still the weakest link after all. Shutra apologizes, his brain working in overdrive. Why are they so kind? Is this royal family actually wholesome? It makes no sense. In the game, it was all betrayal and cold scripts. This feels dangerously alive. The emotions, the vibes, it's all unpredictable. This world isn't just data anymore. Chris backs her up. Caitlin's right. Pull another stunt like that and you're grounded. Shutra nods, playing it cool, but he can't shake the suspicion behind their warmth. The game versions were icy and hostile. These two, they're actually acting like family. Lycanthropes are legendary for their vitality. They're basically walking batteries of raw life force. They're masters of aura too. Suddenly, a wild idea flashes through Shutra's mind. If he can learn skills by experiencing them, maybe he can force unlock aura now. I have a favor, he says. Chris raises an eyebrow. Oh, this should be good. Shutra's eyes burn with resolve. Chris, I want you to blast me with aura. Sudden silence. Chris and Caitlin look at him like he's grown a second head. Are they hearing him right? Or is this some weird new kink? Elsewhere, chaos erupts. Red orcs are being leveled. It's an all-out bloody war against the green clans. The battlefield is pure mayhem. Suddenly, a massive red orc goes berserk on everyone. He butchers his own men and enemies alike. Warriors try stopping him. They fail miserably. A tiny scratch on his arm sends him over the edge. Pure, unbridled rage explodes. The soldier is deleted into a red mist as a shockwave levels the field. Let none escape, the beast bellows, and strangely, the green orcs follow his lead. Meanwhile, Shutra passes out, drifting back into the dreamscape to face that mysterious woman again. Scanning the void, he demands to know who these phantom figures are, ghosts not present in the original game. The mysterious woman glides forward, her silence heavier than words. Her silhouette explodes into a blinding radiance, forcing Shutra to veil his eyes. When the light fades, the dream shatters, and he suddenly jolts awake. Back in the safety of his room, he breathes out, questioning the bizarre vision he just had. Then a cold whisper brushes right against his ear. Carrick is hovering right there, wearing a mischievous smirk. Shutra nearly hits the ceiling, gasping that Carrick almost sent him to an early grave. Carrick chuckles, noting he looks lively for someone who begged his own siblings for a beatdown. Apparently, Shutra had been practically pleading for the pain. He gestures for Shutra to check his progress. Lo and behold, a faint, flickering shimmer of aura now dances across Shutra's skin. It actually worked, Shutra beams, feeling the new power. Carrick is stunned, who knew getting thrashed by raw aura could actually awaken it. Shutra shrugs, admitting the trauma helped jumpstart the process. Carrick leans in, asking if Shutra was the secret battery during that last cave fight. Shutra gives a sharp knowing nod, and Carrick just grins, finally seeing the big picture. But there's no time to celebrate. The focus shifts. Shutra asks for a sitrep on the war. Carrick reveals the main army absolutely crushed the Red Orc forces while he was unconscious. Shutra's eyes go wide. He assumed his siblings handled the threat. Carrick laughs, calling that idea pure delusion, given the sheer size of the Orc tribe. So who led the charge? Shutra asks, curious. The answer Carrick gives is enough to stop his heart. General Bondel. The name alone carries massive weight. He's a titan among warriors and a living legend in this realm. In Shutra's past life as the player, Zephyr Bondel was his most lethal and unwavering right hand. That memory triggers a massive realization. In the original timeline, Bondel doesn't swear loyalty to Zephyr until the year 515. It's currently only 512. Bondel is a free agent. Shutra realizes he's sitting on a massive tactical goldmine. He knows everything. Bondel's triggers his favorite meals, the rewards he craves, and every quirk of his devastating combat style. Most importantly, he knows the only way to earn his respect a duel. Shutra is betting it all that he can snag Bondel first. He'll recruit the general before Zephyr even gets a sniff. It's time to build an unstoppable inner circle of his own. Over at Caitlin's camp, Chris is absolutely losing his mind. He screams at the top of his lungs, demanding a real explanation. Did Shutra seriously master the fundamentals of aura in 24 hours? Shutra calmly explains he dumped every single level-up point into it. It's not just a parlor trick. Aura scales physical stats like crazy. It's a way better investment than basic telekinesis right now. Chris grumbles about how unfair it is, wondering if Shutra's Gandharva blood is giving him a cheat code. He then asks if Shutra can replicate the map of the underground tunnels. Shutra confidently says he's got it covered. While he doesn't have a physical parchment, his mental minimap is showing every single twist and turn in high definition. He grabs a pen and starts flying across the paper. When he's finally done, Chris's jaw hits the floor. The sketch is flawlessly detailed, better than their official reports. Chris calls him a freakish genius while Caitlin shares some vital intel. The red orcs they slaughtered were the only ones who knew they were compromised. The rest of the tribe is still in the dark. Chris realizes they have the perfect opening for a pincer attack, but first they need Shutra for one final task. Shutra heads back toward the peaks. Carrick asks if they're back on grunt work. Shutra sighs, acknowledging his current rank. He's still the weakest link among the royals after all. Carrick is just happy they have backup now, and Shutra shares the credit. They exchange a few laughs until two figures emerge from the mist. It's Caitlin, but she's wearing a heavy hooded cloak. Shutra is baffled. Why the secret agent getup? Caitlin tells him to keep it down, her voice a sharp, urgent whisper. She's going to tail him from the shadows to ensure he gets all the glory for this upcoming mission. She'll only step in if things go south. This achievement needs to belong to Shutra and Shutra alone. Shutra can't tell if she's being super sweet or just incredibly naive, but he's not about to turn down a top-tier bodyguard. The other woman steps forward as Sarah Caitlin's right hand. Shutra keeps it professional with a polite greeting. With the ghost squad in tow, they dive back into the labyrinthine dwarven ruins they found earlier. Carrick notes the eerie silence as they walk. The place has been picked clean as if everything of value just vanished. Shutra agrees. The dwarves wouldn't just abandon their inheritance. He asks about the leftover gear they spotted before. Carrick dismisses them as trash by dwarven standards. Suddenly, Carrick's instincts flare. Something dangerous is moving in the dark. Shutra hears the skittering too. He checks the HUD and confirms a massive swarm is closing in fast. He doesn't panic. Instead, he reaches into his inventory with a smirk. He's been waiting for this exact moment. He pulls out a high-grade flash magic item. Eyes shut, he roars as they reach the end of the tunnel. Pulling out a pre-prepped flash artifact, he gives the crew a stern heads up. "Shut your eyes on my command," he warns as they hit the cave's far edge. Nightmarish shadows crawl forth. Massive spiders, dog-sized and rock-shielded, swarm the jagged terrain. These rock spiders rule the dark. They hunt in lethal packs dripping with paralyzing venom. One bite means paralysis. Shutra signals the attack, launching a flash spell into the air. Boom, blinding gold floods the cave. The monsters shriek, frozen solid by the radiant surge. Shadows can't handle the light. "Finish them," Shutra commands, as the warriors charge, steel gleaming. The spiders struggle, but it's a slaughter. The team carves through the hive like butter. Shutra smirks. Mission accomplished. He stays back playing the tactical mastermind while the dust settles. Watching from afar, he scans his minimap. He zooms in, analyzing every move of the fray. He spots the pattern. Every pack has an alpha. They're a massive, hideous beast lurking nearby. It's hiding deep. "Carrick on me," Shutra commands. "We're taking the head off this snake." Carrick nods, and they plunge forward. They weave through the chaos with razor-sharp precision. Slicing through the fray, the boss spider finally emerges. It's a literal mountain of legs. The beast roars, sensing them. Carrick doesn't flinch. He leaps, bringing his axe down with force. Clang, the axe bounces off. 0 damage. The creature's armor is practically indestructible. Shutra curses. He forgot this shell is ironclad. Physical hits are useless. Only fire works. Problem is, he lacks fire magic. Suddenly, dozens of blinking eyes pop open across its back. Nightmarish eyes lock onto Carrick. The boss screeches and begins a thunderous, unstoppable charge. Shutra's mind races. He needs fire fast. Suddenly, Caitlyn's voice rings out from the shadows. "Lift your sword," she shouts. He obeys, and instantly blazing fire engulfs the steel blade. "Is this magic?" he stammers. Caitlyn smirks, channeling her raw power directly into his weapon. She's the ultimate support. The boss lunges. Shutra braces the ground, exploding as it strikes. Shutra erupts from the smoke. He sprints up the beast's leg, swinging his fire-kissed blade. Channeling his skills, he roars Burning Blade. The enchanted steel ignites with a lethal glow. The sword carves through the shell like lava. The spider howls as the inferno consumes it. He keeps slashing until only ash remains. Suddenly, a familiar radiant glow washes over Shutra. Level up. Golden light explodes as notifications flood his vision. He's reached level 9. He cheers wildly. Caitlyn asks about the light. Shutra lies, calling it a heavenly blessing. "Just a side effect," he says. She wonders if it's a secret Gandharva power. He nods. But Caitlyn's suspicious. His moves were way too perfect for a lucky guess. "I read about it," he lies. In reality, he's slain thousands in his past life. Their patterns are etched into his soul. Suddenly, Carrick shouts he's found something hidden. Behind a pile of rocks lies a secret door. They push it open into a vault. Shutra stops dead. He knows this architecture. It's a dwarven town portal. Dwarven markings, Shutra notes. He never saw this as Zephyr, but his other life knows. As a human hero, he used these. "It's a teleporter," he tells Caitlyn. "Just add magic." She's skeptical. But Sarah examines the ruins and agrees Shutra's theory is spot on. "Where does it lead?" Caitlyn asks. Sarah searches for clues just as Carrick spots carvings. Faint runes cover the stone. The team gathers, staring at the ancient, unreadable script. No one can decode it. Not Caitlyn, not Sarah. Then Shutra begins reading it fluently. "Ziska Mountains Portal 2. Link to Portal 3, he translates. Then he freezes. How does he know this ding-a system? Prompt confirms skill-acquired dwarven script mastery. The language feels natural now. It's insane, even linguistics can be instantly learned here. Experience is the ultimate teacher. Carrick gapes at him. "Wait, did you actually just read that?" "Guess I did," Shutra shrugs. Caitlyn's stunned, while Sarah points to more text below. "Needs magic to jumpstart," Shutra explains. He looks at Caitlyn. "Care to do the honors?" She questions why he won't take charge. Dodging the truth about his broken mana, he merely claims his spellcasting is still a clumsy mess. Caitlyn steps up, pouring raw energy into the gateway. At its heart, the embedded orb flickers to life with a faint azure glow. It surges, expanding until a vivid holographic image flickers to life. A bird's eye map appears, showing their exact location and the distant silhouette of Portal 3. They suspect this is the dwarves' secret sanctuary. However, Carrick warns that the Red Orc Legion is lurking right across those ridges. Shutra sees the perfect opening for a preemptive strike, but Caitlin insists on pausing to strategize their next move. Back at the base, an ecstatic Chris hails Shutra as their literal luck-bringing goddess of fortune. Shutra brushes it off as pure luck, yet he can't escape the crushing weight of his brother's overwhelming praise. It is heavy in every sense. Chris then offers Shutra anything he desires, speaking both as his commander and bloodkin. He is ready to move mountains. Though Shutra declines, Chris demands he name a price, claiming a refusal would be heartbreaking. Shutra tests the waters, asking if a wild request is okay. Chris just laughs, giving him the green light. Stealing his nerves, Shutra requests to master the Beast God Fist. Chris instantly turns into a statue. He reasons that since he is low-level, weapons are useless, but high-tier skills could change the entire game. The Beast God Fist is an S-rank mythic art, a lethal legacy reserved only for the lycanthrope royal bloodline. Admitting it is a massive ask. Shutra bows his head, prepared for the inevitable rejection he feels is coming. After a tense silence, Chris actually agrees, though the ultimate forbidden techniques remain strictly off-limits. Instead, he offers to awaken Shutra's aura, a massive power-up that should be more than enough of a reward. Shutra is stunned into silence. Misreading the vibe, Chris worries his brother is disappointed with the offer. Shutra panics, reassuring him he is beyond hyped. Chris beams, clapping a hand on his shoulder with newfound warmth. From this moment on, Chris officially views Shutra as his genuine little brother alongside Caitlin. A bond forged in blood, not just titles. Shutra realizes this isn't just talk. His brother's sincerity is actually real. The offer is heavy, but the perks are too good to pass up. He accepts the alliance instantly. A firm handshake seals their new fate. Watching from the side, Caitlin lets a rare, genuine smile slip. Shutra declares they must be the ultimate duo. This isn't some stiff royal contract. It's a bond built on survival. Their foundation is simple, shared goals, and a newfound gritty trust. It is just a partnership for now, but Shutra senses this could evolve into something truly legendary. The camera pans away, soaring toward the lethal, frostbitten peaks surrounding Portal 3 in the Ziska range. Hidden among the crags sits a red orc fortress. Inside a dim tent, a pack of orcs is plotting. They doubt the enemy is after her, specifically mocking their great princess, and wondering why she is even in this wasteland. Bound and silenced, Princess Felicia Doomblade sits in the shadows, her eyes burning with pure icy rage. Back with our main character, Shutra checks his stats. His eyes narrow at his charisma, now his weakest link. He remembers that early on, every level up granted a solid 2-point boost across the board, but now his charisma only inches up by 1. In the game world, charm and looks were totally different mechanics. Appearance was about the looks, but charisma, that was the secret sauce for influencing people and leading armies. It is about being a leader. Still, his growth is insane, and he is scaling faster than anyone else in this world. More importantly, he is rapidly closing in on level 10. Level 10 is a major milestone that evolves unique skills, just like how Locke's Chosen One trait got buffed. Zephyr's Darkness also spiked at 10. Shutra wonders which of his own overpowered abilities is about to get an upgrade. The anticipation is real. Carrick bursts in reporting that the squad is locked and loaded for the next mission. Shutra gives the nod. Noticing his hype, Carrick teases him about his unusually good mood, wondering what happened. Shutra plays it cool. Outside, the warriors stand at sharp attention. With one signal, the grand expedition finally kicks off. They march back into the wild, trekking through the brutal terrain to reclaim the portal hidden within the cave. Deep inside the cavern, lycanthrope mages are already busy decoding the ancient magic. Chris looms by the gateway, a true commander. He barks at the mages, demanding to know if they have cracked it yet. A mage confirms the intel. This portal is a direct shortcut to the riverbanks of the Ziska Mountains. Portal's green-lit, Chris asks. The mage confirms everything's flawless. The framework is rock solid. Peak dwarven engineering, built to last. Chris signals the start. Mages surge mana into the gate. The portal thrums, erupting in brilliance as it anchors a path through the peaks. Chris advances. Sutra's jaw drops. Witnessing a physical pulsing gate is just built different. Games are one thing, but this is reality. Caitlin nudges him. Don't lag now. On it, he mutters, crossing over. The jump is instant. One blink, and he's landed. The view hits him, the red orc camps right there. Chris is already flanking him. Just as predicted, Chris notes. Gouging the layout, he calculates their threat level. 5,000 hostiles. The plan, strike the rear and incinerate their supply chain first. Bondal's frontal assault baits them. Meanwhile, our ghosts burn their rations to ash. Sarah freezes. Bad vibe check. The camp feels ghost town, empty, almost half deserted. Chris agrees. The numbers don't add up. They likely already moved out to strike. Sutra's ears twitch. Distant steel screams against steel. A battle's raging. Hear that. It's faint but real. Chris barks, Sutra, pump aura into your eyes. Sutra focuses. Vision sharpens. Ahead, red orcs are locked in a brutal melee. But these aren't Bondel's men. Caitlin frowns. Wait, who the hell are they fighting? Chris confirms it. Bondel had 0 deployments today. This timing is completely chaotic. Sutra zooms in. Lithe warriors riding Draco mounts. He knows that silhouette. Dark elves, he breathes. Those riders are definitely from the shadows. Caitlin's stunned. Are you sure? He nods. The mounts and builds are dead giveaways. The tide turns. Chris watches the dark elves flee. Their commander must have fallen. They're dipping fast. Carrick watches the dust settle. Is that really it? Sutra's mind races. Why are dark elves here? Later back at the main camp. General Bondel meets Chris. News travels fast. Your team found the dwarf gateway. Impressive work. How'd you pin the location? Chris deflects. Wasn't my call. Ninth Prince Sutra found it. Sutra plays it cool. Just a lucky guess. Seeing Bondel again feels surreal. In the game, he was a legend. Deadly and unstoppable. Sharp eyes get rewards. Bondel grins. He promises Sutra a kingly payout. Shifting gears, Chris asks about the earlier skirmish near the perimeter. Bondel sighs. The Dark Elves apparently crashed the party on their own whim. Were they castle reinforcements? Chris asks, skeptical. Bondel shrugs. They claimed it was a scout mission before the main war. But things went south. Fast. Now they're facing a massive political disaster. Chris frowns. Bondel drops the bomb. The orcs captured their commander. That explains the retreat. Sutra jumps in. So who's the missing VIP? Bondel's expression darkens. Someone you know very well, he admits grimly. It's 6th Princess Felicia Doomblade, their own sister. Chris and Caitlin are shook. Total silence. Felicia, the daughter of the 3rd Queen and a royal enigma. Twin sister to Prince Sylvan, a true dark elf powerhouse. Game lore says she's Anastasia's loyal blade. A permanent antagonist. A political rival. A threat. So why is she here now? Sutra wonders, is she chasing clout or just here to sabotage them? Chris speculates, maybe the orcs don't know she's a royal yet. Unconfirmed Bondel replies, the situation is a ticking time bomb. The plan Bondel rescue her, but we don't suicide the whole army. If they see a gap, they'll pounce. Bondel's making one thing clear, he isn't bending the knee to anyone. Let the red orcs crawl to us first if they want to talk. Chris nods, soaking in the cold reality. Bondel promises to dig up more dirt and tells them to keep their comms open for any shifts. The call cuts out. Chris drops the bomb, their sister is officially a prisoner of war. Caitlin's panic flares instantly. If she's breathing, they're going in. Chris plays it cool, technically agreeing. But he warns that a reckless rescue means a body count. Caitlin isn't hearing it, she's not leaving her behind. Felicia is blood, she snaps, and family isn't negotiable. Chris goes quiet, finally acknowledging her fire. Yet he knows the situation is a powder keg. Sutra stays silent, reading the heavy air between them. There's some hidden history between Chris and Felicia, a secret Sutra hasn't cracked yet. Outside the night feels suffocating. Lycanthropes march in deadly unison alongside green-skinned orcs. Inside the command tent, the heavy hitters assemble. Chris reveals the endgame. General Bondel will draw the red orcs' fire in a massive frontal clash. While they're distracted, Chris's units will strike like a dagger from the shadows. The objective trigger total panic and wreck their supplies. Caitlin and Sutra are heading their own squads. Sutra cuts to the chase. Does this mission include bringing Felicia home or not? Chris confirms it, but there's a catch. The food and armory are the real targets. Rescue comes last. If the mission goes south, the order is brutal. Fall back immediately. One life isn't worth a whole battalion. Caitlin's blood boils, her fists trembling with pure rage. Chris shuts her down with a cold reminder, he's the commander here. But she isn't backing off. She accuses him of treating Felicia like dead weight. Chris retorts that emotions are a luxury he can't afford. Not when the mission is on the line. Sutra watches, wondering if this is more than just cold politics. Is there a personal grudge between them? Something buried deep that no one else knows? Whatever it is, it's jagged. Night falls hard, wrapping the entire operation in a cloak of shadows. Perched on the cliffs, the team scouts the red orc base. The camp is buzzing even in the dark. Fires burn, sentries, pace, and then boom. A massive blast rocks the perimeter. Orcs are tossed like ragdolls as General Bondel smashes through their front gates. He's leading a bloodthirsty charge, his roar echoing across the valley as he orders total annihilation. Over at Shutra's spot, Carrick spots the signal. He asks if it's go time, but they hold for a beat. They watch the green tide surge forward before Bondel orders a tactical retreat to bait them. From his high ground, Chris sees the trap spring. The opening is wide open. Now or never. He rallies the squad, barking out final orders. He reminds Shutra and Caitlin to stay on task. Hit the supplies, save Felicia if they can. Then comes the command, charge. The second wave hits like a truck. The red orcs are reeling, their formation shattered by the surprise blitz. Their defenses are folding fast. Caitlin yells for Shutra to keep his head up. He fires back the same advice, pulling up his minimap. Mapping out a path through the weak spots, he finds the fastest route and points to the prize. The supply depot. They have to strike now before the chaos settles and the enemy regroups. Their window is closing. Carrick lunges forward, screaming that he'll crush every orc in his path. His massive frame acts like a wrecking ball, pulverizing the red orc front lines with ease. But one orc finds a gap, swinging a lethal blade toward Carrick's blind side. Carrick realizes he's too slow. He can't block in time. Then something whistles through the air, a flash of cold steel. A dagger buries itself in the orc's head with lethal precision. Carrick turns stunned to see Shutra. Shutra lowers his hand, a smirk playing on his lips. "Better than I thought," he mutters. Carrick is speechless. He asks when Shutra became a pro thrower. Shutra just shrugs. He just unlocked the skill last night. One try was all it took. Carrick nods, pointing toward the food storage they just reached. "Light it up," he asks. Shutra agrees, but a dark thought starts to crawl into his mind. If Felicia is held nearby and they torch the place, she might be lost in the inferno. Locating her is the priority. He toggles his HUD eyes, scanning the minimap for life signals. Neutral NPCs glow purple on his radar. Found her. He signals Carrick to move out immediately. They storm a nearby tent. Sutra kicks the entrance. This is it, but a voice chills him. He whirls around. Felicia lies shackled in the dirt, her eyes wide with total disbelief. "What are you doing here?" she demands. Sutra ignores her fingers flying as he picks the locks. "This place is a powder keg," he growls. "We leave now or we all burn to ash." He's playing the long game. Saving royalty means a debt he'll definitely collect with interest later. Felicia's head is spinning, but the moment the chains clatter, they bolt into the chaos. "We need to link up with Chris and Caitlin," Sutra shouts. Felicia, lungs burning, gasps for air. "Did you really come for me?" she asks. Sutra scoffs. "You really thought I'd let you rot. You don't understand the politics," she pants. "It's not that simple," but the air shatters. "Ambush enemy reinforcements," Carrick bellows. Sutra grabs her arm. "Stay on my heels, Felicia." She freezes. Since when was he so casual? Suddenly a flash of steel, incoming danger. "Watch out," a spear whistles through the dark. Sutra pivots, taking the brutal hit full on. Impaled blood sprays as the spear pierces his back. Suddenly, his body erupts in magical hellfire. Their screams echo as they watch in horror. Sutra collapses, a scorched, unmoving heap on the floor. Felicia's heart hammers. Panic. An orc lunges its jagged blade inches from her throat. Boom, a fireball vaporizes the orc's head. Sutra stands wreathed in smoke and rising embers. He steps through the haze, glowing with a new power fire arrow mana control level 1. A predatory grin spreads. He starts raining fire with pinpoint accuracy, incinerating the mob. Finally, he chuckles. This is the raw, unbridled destruction he's been hunting for. It's addictive. Even at level 1, these fire arrows hit like tactical nukes. Suddenly a frost blast shatters behind him. A red orc mage is channeling another shot. An ice arrow forms aimed straight at Felicia. She rushes to him. "Are you okay?" "Get back," Sutra shoves her. He won't let her take the hit. This fight is his. He triggered this mess. He'll end it. The arrows strike with a deafening roar. Ice detonates. Shrapnel shreds the air. As the mist settles, Sutra is barely clinging to life. An arrow is buried in his chest. HP 13 out of 95. He's gasping for air. One more hit, and he's done. Felicia cries out. "You idiot. Who asked for a hero?" He just smirks. Is she actually worried, or just being a total tsundere right now? "You're the weakest sibling," she yells. "Why the hell did you think you could protect me?" He smiles. Her misunderstanding is perfect. He turns his gaze toward the enemy mage. He expects another attack, but the orc is out cold. Felicia drops to her knees beside him. "Where did you learn magic?" she whispers. Damn, she's way stronger than the game suggested. She thinks he's a martyr. Soft green light pulses. She's actually healing his shattered chest. The mana seeps into his skin. System alert. New skill heal acquired. Jackpot. Another tool for the arsenal. If surviving death nets him skills, he'll be a god. Insane, he mutters. But what else from the genius mage of their generation? "Can you move?" she asks softly. "Yeah, thanks to you." She pauses, confused by his tone. Before another word, the ground trembles. Heavy rhythmic thuds shake the very cavern walls. A massive shadow looms. A towering crimson brute stalks out of the dark. The pressure is suffocating. "What is that thing?" she gasps. Sutra's eyes narrow. A blood ogre. A mutated nightmare. "It's the ultimate predator. We have to kill that to get out. Yeah, no choice." The beast roars, beating its chest. They run. Sutra, battered and bloody, grinds his teeth. How is a low-level player supposed to survive a boss fight this early in the game? The titanic blood ogre pulverized the earth with a thunderous punch, shattering the terrain. A violent shockwave ripped through the air, sending the royal siblings flying like broken dolls. The prince gasped, his mind reeling from the monster's impossible agility. How could something that massive move with such lethal velocity? His sister's scream cut through the chaos, ordering him to draw its aggro, swearing to unleash her deadliest spells if he bought her an opening. Heart hammering, he barked back, asking how the hell he'd survive that. Another explosion sent them skidding across the dirt as his desperate shout faded. But amidst the terror, a spark ignited. A risky plan formed. He yelled for her to charge her magic while he played bait, leaving her wide-eyed and confused. She hesitated, but the youth didn't wait. He roared for Carrick, and the loyal orc materialized in an instant. "Prepare the combo," he commanded. Lunging forward, the prince summoned his system interface with a swift flick of his wrist. Diving into his inventory, he snatched the dwarf dagger, betting everything that his stats were finally high enough to wield it. Blinding gold radiance erupted as the blade appeared vibrating with pure, unadulterated power. The steel breathed with celestial light. Dropping into a low stance, he plunged the dagger into the soil, unleashing a tidal wave of gold. Activating the king's banner, he channeled the raw energy into Carrick. The orc let out a primal roar as the aura swirled. His muscles swelled, and his soul caught fire. Carrick's eyes bulged, intoxicated by the sheer violence of the buff coursing through him. Sensing the shift, the blood ogre snarled. It realized its prey had transformed into a predator cloaked in divine light. Carrick dug his heels in, staring down the Crimson Titan with zero fear. With a bone-shaking leap, he catapulted into the fray. He swung with world-ending power. The ogre shrieked, raising its primitive club to intercept the lethal blow. Metal shrieked against bone, the collision echoing like a canyon blast. Carrick expertly parried the monster's strike, rattling the entire war zone. The buffed orc and the beast locked into a savage deadlock. Veins bulged, and the earth groaned as it splintered beneath them. Neither would budge an inch. Above the carnage, the princess ascended, her body shimmering with a lethal neon-pink luminescence. Her gaze burned with cold resolve while her mana spiked. She fired a high-density beam of pure destruction, sniping the ogre's hamstrings from the blind spot. The spell exploded, forcing the behemoth to its knees with a guttural howl. The titan buckled its massive frame, crashing into the dirt. Carrick didn't blink. He soared high into the sky, eclipsing the sun above the fallen beast. His face went cold as he whispered that this bloody nightmare was finally over. He plummeted like a falling star, blade ready. The ogre's death rattle pierced the atmosphere as Carrick's edge sank into its heart. The golden power detonated inside the wound, snuffing out the monster's life. As the debris cleared, the prince strolled casually through the wreckage. He exhaled the tension, finally leaving his shoulders. He thought the boss was down, but before he could celebrate, a radiant pillar of light engulfed him. He blinked in shock as a holographic system notification popped up. "You leveled up." He'd finally hit the level 10 milestone, but the system wasn't done. His unique, Protagonist buff had evolved too. A confident smirk played on his lips as he felt the surge of fresh potential. Then came the kicker, a brand new passive skill. He opened his reward chest and his heart nearly stopped. He couldn't believe it. He'd just unlocked the mythical Stormtrooper effect. Was this the ultimate plot armor where projectiles just miss? Finally, he was the untouchable main character. He chuckled until a deafening war cry broke the silence. A sea of red orcs was charging straight for them. "Focus up," his sister barked, pointing at the closing horde. The princess glared at the green tide, her face a mask of cold fury. She conjured a massive cyclone, ordering it to shred the enemy ranks. The prince braced himself as the gale howled past, stunned by the sheer scale of her mana. Inside the vortex, ghostly butterflies danced. It hit him, she was channeling the power of an ancient spirit. He'd forgotten Felicia was a natural-born spirit user, a rare gift of her dark elven heritage. She controlled the storm like a living extension of herself, leaving their enemies helpless. A cunning thought crossed his mind. Could he summon spirits too? His theory was cut short as a neon yellow flare shrieked into the sky, detonating above the carnage. The orc grunts froze, staring upward. Carrick growled, demanding an explanation. "It is the retreat signal," the prince muttered, a pit of dread forming in his stomach. Something had gone horribly wrong elsewhere. Carrick looked to him for a command, and the prince ordered a full withdrawal. He then announced he was heading out alone to find Caitlin. His allies stood frozen in shock. Carrick roared in protest, desperate to follow, but the prince's command cut through the air like cold steel. Suddenly, Felicia stepped into the light. She vowed to fight beside her brother, leaving Carrick speechless in the shadows. She wasn't one for debts and intended to pay him back for saving her life. Besides, she had her own score to settle with the enemy. Seeing her resolve, the orc warrior finally backed down with a heavy heart. He warned the prince to stay sharp during the wait. The youth nodded instantly, pushing forward into the unknown. Felicia wondered why they were tracking Caitlin. To the prince, that retreat order felt way too suspicious to ignore. Locking eyes with him, she questioned his true concern for their sister. He insisted that sibling bonds naturally meant worry, but deep down, he didn't see family. He only saw Caitlin as a high-tier asset he could rely on. Felicia went quiet, her skeptical gaze scanning his face. They trudged deeper through the ruins of the shattered fortress, where dancing flames cast eerie shadows under the starlight. Pure chaos was already tearing the enemy camp apart. Elsewhere, a bloodthirsty horde of red orcs let out a deafening roar as they swarmed a lone figure. Their prey was Caitlin. Surrounded by a sea of monsters, her gaze remained sharp and her spirit absolutely unbreakable. Ready for the slaughter, she unleashed a terrifying storm of energy, obliterating the first wave of attackers. Orc screams filled the air as blasts shattered their ranks, yet a tide of monsters kept coming. One beast lunged, throwing its blade. She danced away with casual elegance. Within seconds, a glowing blade of raw mana materialized in her grip. Lethal and ready. With one powerful arc, Caitlin unleashed a shimmering crescent that sliced through the horde effortlessly. Just then, the prince and Felicia arrived to find her amidst a graveyard of foes. His heart finally slowed down. A faint smile touched his face, realizing his fears were misplaced. But Caitlin's eyes narrowed as she whipped around. She demanded why he'd ignored the retreat signal. He stammered a frantic excuse, leaving the battle-hardened warrior looking genuinely baffled. He'd only come to help. Suddenly, Caitlin's frost melted. She lunged forward, pulling Felicia into a fierce, desperate hug. Her sister's name left her lips like a prayer. The icy mask finally cracked, exposing the raw terror she'd felt. She whispered how grateful she was for Felicia's safety. Blushing slightly, Felicia teased that Caitlin was being a major overthinker, worrying over nothing. Watching them, the prince felt a warmth in his chest. Their bond was clearly something special. His focus shifted to the map. Red dots were swarming. The enemy was closing in on their location fast. A system alert flashed red danger was imminent. He barked the order to move. Caitlin nodded, telling him to take point. She and Felicia would handle the backline. They sprinted toward a concealed gate guarded by their orc allies. The soldiers stood ready. As they stepped onto the ritual circle, sapphire light exploded the portal, humming with ancient power. Blinding radiance swallowed them, whisking the group away from the carnage. As the world stopped spinning, Felicia wondered if Sutra found the exit. Caitlin confirmed he was the key. Beside them, Kirik looked deeply thoughtful. He couldn't believe how much the prince had evolved in mere days. His voice dripped with pure, unadulterated shock. Their eldest brother, Chris, was waiting. He stood like a stone statue, imposing stern and completely unreadable. He signaled to his brother, his voice booming through the hall. Caitlin beamed, announcing their successful rescue of Felicia. Felicia offered a quiet greeting, noting the long months since their last meeting. It was a heavy, awkward reunion. He stayed silent, his intense gaze boring into her. His thoughts were locked behind a wall of cold steel. Finally, a stiff welcome. Later, he broke the news that General Vandal's forces had also crushed their targets. Victory was theirs. The enemy had fled in terror after seeing their main stronghold go up in flames. The prince blinked, confused by the name. Caitlin quickly explained that Vandal was the brutal chieftain of their enemies. Felicia hoped their cousin had finally surrendered. Chris shook his head. The coward had vanished and remained a massive threat. Big Brother set the agenda. At dawn, they'd strike the next battalion before the enemy could even catch their breath. Plan settled, he fixed a piercing look on Felicia. He needed to know exactly how she'd been caught. She claimed she was exploring ruins when she heard the battle. She was captured while trying to play hero. Chris didn't buy it for a second. His skepticism was written all over his face. Felicia's eyes flashed with defiance. She wasn't backing down. The air turned heavy as they locked eyes in a silent, high-stakes battle of wills. There was clearly bad blood here. Chris eventually sighed, ending the interrogation so everyone could get some much-needed sleep. Felicia took the out. The siblings split up, heading for their tents to finally collapse from sheer exhaustion. Across the camp, soldiers celebrated the win. Fires crackled as they shared food, laughter, and stories of the hunt. But the young prince sat in the shadows. His eyes were glued to the shimmering blue system interface. He scrolled through his new skills, mesmerized by the power. Still, a realization began to dawn on him. Magic was cool, but his aura was his true trump card. Suddenly, a shadow fell across his door. It was Felicia. Her voice was unnervingly calm as she asked for a moment. He frowned, wondering what she wanted so late. She didn't answer. She just stood there, her expression dead serious, before slowly repeating his name with heavy intent. She closed the distance with predatory grace, leaving the young man completely confused. Then the vibe shifted instantly. She grabbed his collar, yanking him toward her. He gasped, his brain short-circuiting at the sudden physical contact. He couldn't process her sudden boldness. Leaning into his personal space, she dropped a bombshell. "Take off your clothes." His face turned a vibrant shade of scarlet. He stammered, totally lost, while she just stared at his armor. No hesitation, no blushing, just a direct command that left him reeling. He managed to choke out a "why." Felicia didn't blink. She asked if he seriously intended to ignore the bleeding wounds he'd taken for her. The gears finally turned. He realized she just wanted to heal him. Panic faded, replaced by pure, awkward relief. Her cards were on the table. That first heal, it was just basic first aid, purely to stabilize him. Suspecting internal trauma, she insisted on a high-tier recovery spell. A sting of disappointment hit him, but her focus shifted to his radiant, glowing frame. He shrugged it off as a fluke. Seizing the opening, he quickly flipped the script. "I need a favor," he whispered, "and only you have the power to grant it." Mischief flickered in his gaze. With her cooperation, he successfully poached 3 legendary skills. Cure, purify, poison, and disease cleanse. Geared up, he smirked at his new skill list. Tanking her spells directly let him copy them. Soon, his grueling training under Caitlin began. The Beast Fist has infinite branches, she declared. We will start with the werewolf style. A sapphire wolf sigil manifested instantly the sacred mark of the lethal lycanthrope martial arts. This foundation, she explained, was the gateway to the supreme beast god fist technique. Today is all about internal aura control. He shut his eyes, diving into his core. Indigo and violet energy shimmered. With sheer willpower, he finally tapped into his hidden reservoir. Energy surged like crackling lightning through his limbs. He could finally visualize his own aura. It was raw life force. At full throttle, this power brushed against the essence of his soul. Pushed to the limit, it began to fuse. Ding, a system window startled him. New passive protagonist body. The description, training efficiency, boosted to insane god-tier levels. Plus bonus traits every level. He had just unlocked the ultimate game-breaking cheat code. Compared to his rival's high-tier buffs, his own gift was on a totally different level. This skill was alive, continuously evolving, and stacking new perks with every single advancement. A predatory smirk spread across his face. The possibilities for total domination were endless. He gripped his fists, savoring the rush. This was the mark of a true protagonist. Focus, Caitlin's sharp bark broke his trance. He stammered an apology for losing his way. Back to work, she commanded. He nodded eagerly, reigniting his glowing aura once more. Ding Beast Fist reached level 1. Caitlin stood there, completely floored by his genius. Flawless mastery of the basics, she whispered. The prince stared at his hands, radiating power. His aura felt solid, a weapon forged from pure willpower. Suddenly, a panicked soldier burst in. The Lycan soldier looked pale with terror. Sire, disaster has struck the front lines. Chris followed, looking grim. He dropped the bombshell. Cairo's entire unit had completely vanished. Circling the war map, Chris realized the truth. The enemy had seen through their strategy. Our next move, Caitlin asked. Chris stabbed a finger at their final rallying point. That is where the enemy would strike. The prince scanned the geography, calculating their survival. Your logic is sound, he muttered. It was time for a bold, decisive gamble. We rendezvous with General Vandal, Chris declared. Meanwhile, at the jagged mountain base, a massive crimson-skinned general loomed over the camp, welcoming Chris to the front lines. Chris smirked, still as terrifying as ever, General. The respect between them was palpable. Vandal welcomed the sisters, but Felicia was not here for small talk. She cut right in. Your men, are they safe? She demanded. They are holding firm, the general rumbled back. Sutra eyed the Titan. This was Vandal, his absolute favorite main from the original game. Seeing the orc in the flesh felt surreal. Bracing himself, he stepped forward to introduce himself. He offered a handshake. The general froze, stunned by the sheer audacity of the ninth prince. With a bone-crushing grip, he accepted. Welcome to my command, Prince Vandal rumbled. Miles away, the heavens cracked open. Out stepped a mysterious woman with flowing snow-white hair. Her mismatched eyes gleamed with terrifying authority. This was no mortal, it was a goddess. Her aura weighed down like divine judgment. But from the horizon, a second figure approached. A warrior draped in blazing crimson plate, her very breath turning the air to cinders. She was a walking inferno. Her mana rivaled the Pale Lady's cold intensity. Two titans stood frozen, their murderous intent warping the atmosphere. Reality shuddered as their powers grated against each other. Caught in the epicenter, the prince felt ice-cold sweat trail down his neck. Suffocating under the sheer weight of their presence, his pulse thundered against his ribs. This was beyond logic. Suddenly, the sigil of conquest flared into life, followed instantly by a second brand war. Both crests throbbed with malice. It was a prophecy of total carnage. Then the prince bolted upright, gasping as dawn's light pierced his tent. Shaking, he realized it was just a nightmare. Yet the vivid terror refused to let him go. He knew those heterochromatic eyes from before, but the Scarlet Knight remained a dangerous new mystery. Carrick's gruff bark broke the silence, signaling the march toward the front lines. He scrambled to his feet. Flanking his loyal orc brother, he stepped into a whirlwind of steel and grit. The entire camp was a powder keg. Grunts hauled supplies while warriors sharpened cold iron. Every man was on edge. The prince rehearsed the strategy. Left wing was his. General Vandal held the center. Chris and Caitlin commanded the right, while dark elves cloaked the rear. Moments bled into hours. Finally, the massive coalition began its steady, rhythmic trudge toward the horizon. Reaching the valley, he surveyed the scene. A literal sea of steel stretched as far as the eye could see. A deafening war cry shook the clouds as the enemy horde appeared. General Vandal's voice sliced through the noise. He barked orders, his eyes burning with grim resolve. Raising his heavy axe, the orc swore a bloody vengeance. With a roar that rattled teeth, the signal was given. The red orc vanguard charged like a tidal wave. Blades out, shields locked. Across the dirt, the enemy chieftain watched with a sadistic, mocking grin. In a heartbeat, the ground vanished beneath Vandal's men in a massive, earth-shattering explosion. Fire and shrapnel shredded the front lines, tossing warriors like ragdolls. Out of the smoke stepped a swamp mammoth. Its crimson eyes glowed with prehistoric hunger, the earth groaning under its weight. Vandal's face went ghost white. Horror gripped the general as he identified the Titan. Then a second wave of magical fire rained from the sky. It was a total bloodbath. The battlefield transformed into a screaming hellscape as the mammoth crushed everything in its path. Stuck in the crossfire, the prince and Carrick dug in their unit, barely holding the line. They watched the slaughter in stunned silence. The prince bit his lip. They had walked straight into a masterclass trap. The enemy had read them like a book. The mammoth loomed over them, an unstoppable force of pure destruction. Its gaze burned with demonic power. Gritting his teeth, the prince's red aura flickered to life. He had to move. But fate was not finished. The ground split open, vomiting a swarm of armored lizardmen into the chaos. The reptilian warriors slammed into their broken ranks, their jagged blades carving through flesh. The allied defense buckled. Panic spread as the orcs were butchered with savage precision. The prince spun around, his heart stopping. The lizardmen were gunning straight for him. On the right, Chris spat a curse. They were being played like puppets. Caitlyn's voice cut through the screams, pleading for a tactical retreat before the whole army was lost. Chris hesitated, fearing a botched retreat would lead to a total massacre anyway. The stakes were lethal. Caitlyn snapped back, pointing at the rising body count. They needed a miracle or they needed to run. Chris stood frozen, the weight of thousands of lives crushing his spirit. Then he finally found his voice. His command boomed across the carnage. He ordered the mages to step up immediately. "Hold them at the rear," he screamed. "Everyone else fall back to Sutra now." The retreat was pure madness, a desperate struggle between orc steel and lizardman claws. A massive reptile lunged at the prince, its weapon aimed for his skull. He stood paralyzed, time slowing down. Suddenly, Carrick's voice thundered, demanding he wake up before the Reapers took his head. The fog in his mind cleared instantly. This was not a bad dream anymore. This was a survival game. Nearby, Chris fought like a demon, possessed his blade, a blur of silver as he paved a path through the enemy. "Live," he roared to his men. "Don't you dare die in this God's forsaken hole." Hours later, the battered remains of the army huddles in a narrow canyon, a ghost of their former glory. Healers worked frantically, their hands glowing with desperate green light, as they tried to stitch souls back together. Inside the command tent, Chris swallowed his ego and confessed his own arrogance. He'd been blind from the start. General Vandal, stoic and grim, muttered that regrets were useless now. Their only paths were retreat or calling for backup. Chris agreed, refusing to gamble lives on a losing hand. Before he could sign their fate, Felicia stepped up with quiet fire, announcing a secret plan. She reminded the brass her mission wasn't just war, but exploration. Digging into her gear, she unrolled a map of the Jashuka Peaks, pointing to a site she'd been obsessively researching. Ancient ruins dating back 1,500 years, the tomb of the lava-born earth dragon, Enkidu. That monster ruled with absolute power, guarding its lair with lethal sentries, including enslaved mountain dwarves. They were forced to forge god-tier gear. From those dark legends came their most legendary creation, the thunder-birthing anvil. Felicia swore this relic could dominate chimeras and rewrite the battlefield. It held enough magical firepower to wipe out entire legions. She slammed her hand onto the map, pinning the anvil's location. With eyes sharp as blades, she made her ultimate declaration. If they wanted to win, they needed that weapon. Period. This was why she'd come here. Vandal demanded the exact coordinates. Chris's face fell when Felicia admitted she was flying blind. He scoffed, calling her intel total garbage. With a look of pure frustration, he argued they couldn't waste time on fairy tales while the enemy was at their throats. Risking the army on a treasure hunt was suicide. Felicia's temper flared as she spat his name. Suddenly, the young prince intervened, swearing the anvil was real. Felicia gasped out his name, Zephyr. Internally, he smirked. Back when he mained the hero Lug, he'd cleared this exact quest. He'd even confirmed the lore through dwarven runes. Taking a breath, he locked eyes with her. He trusted Felicia. She tried to speak, but he pushed. This was their shot at greatness. Chris cut him off, barking that trust was a waste of time. The prince winced. Chris was relentless. He tapped the map, weaving a story about a Gundharva legend tied to this specific coordinate. The door was close. He promised to find it, and took full responsibility for the scout mission. He begged for one chance to go all out. Suddenly, emerald light exploded, summoning spectral horses. A low-level but meta summon from the game. The ghost steeds charged into the stormy sky, the squad following in a tight formation. Gripping the reins, he felt the mission begin. The hunt for the anvil was finally on. He narrowed his eyes, focused on the horizon. Carrick yelled that the speed was insane, fearing a fall. He just laughed it off. Hunched over his mount, he knew he'd never fall. In his past life, as Zephyr, he'd ridden like this daily. As wind whipped his cloak, he estimated an hour until arrival. With his mental minimap active, the door was easy. The challenge, not looking sus while leading, he needed a cover story. As they glided through the night, he began cooking up a lie. Beneath them, the moonlit peaks stretched out. He visualized the dungeon blueprints from the portal. Combining those patterns with the actual terrain, he pinpointed the ruin's hidden location. He'd found it. He glanced at the others, wondering if they'd bought his nonsense excuse. Caitlin and Carrick just stared. Then they erupted, screaming that his logic made zero sense. He tried to play it cool, but a sharp voice commanded him to lead. He faced Felicia. She crossed her arms, handing him total control. He was stunned. Did his bluff actually work? He signaled the advance, ordering them to follow. She huffed but fell into line behind him. They hacked through the forest until a massive cliff blocked them. Carrick asked if they were lost. This looked like a dead end. The prince just smirked, saying he never mentioned a front door. He paced the wall, pressed his palm against a scar, and told Caitlin to smash it. Startled, she hesitated before agreeing to try. Felicia watched him, her gaze sharpening with suspicion. She couldn't believe the anvil was buried inside a rock. The prince just smiled and started explaining. His math was flawless. A breach here meant ghosting the dungeon's lethal sentries entirely. He began mapping the strategy, suggesting Caitlin punch through, but Felicia shut him down with a sharp, "Are you brain dead?" She barked. "You expect her to shatter solid rock with bare knuckles. Does she look like a freaking battering ram?" He blanked, wondering what other choice they had, just as Felicia glided forward, her arms swathed in a haunting spectral glow. Cracking her wrists, she smirked. Ruins Explorers 101. Always carry a sub-major in total annihilation. Cerulean bursts hammered the jagged fissures, spider-webbing across the stone, until the entire wall surrendered in a deafening roar. Choking dust and stone shrapnel rained down while the team recoiled. Dropping her hands, Felicia let out a shaky, breathless whisper. They'd actually found it. As the haze dissipated, a hand-carved passage emerged, yawning like a pitch-black abyss. The orc narrowed his eyes at the chamber's heart, questioning if the central dome housed the legendary thunder relic. Footsteps thundered as they neared a massive metallic drum, crowned with dancing ribbons of raw electrical power. The prince scrutinized the cage. This is it, the ultimate lock. And the anvil is waiting right inside. Carrick moved to crush it, but the prince halted him. Careless strength will only turn the relic into worthless scrap. The elf traced the intricate cage, sensing a hidden puzzle. There has to be a trigger mechanism, she murmured. She pointed to the surrounding stone sentinels. 9 statues. Only 3 are armed, the other 6 are empty-handed. Caitlin suggested just handing them weapons, but the elf shook her head. It's not that easy. These require dwarven craftsmanship. Where the hell are we finding 6 dwarven blades? She lamented. Suddenly, the prince raised his hands with a smirk. Actually, I have exactly 6, he revealed. The elf gasped as he explained he had stashed them away ages ago. They were too high level for him back then, so he had archived them, never dreaming they would become the key today. Carrick shot a skeptical look at his tiny satchel. How do you fit 6 full-size swords in that flea-sized bag? The prince winced, mentally cursing the orc's sharp intuition, but played it off with a forced laugh and tossed them over. Carrick grunted about the prince's frailty, before nodding. The team moved in sync, sliding the steel into cold stone palms. Ancient gears groaned as the statues pivoted, their hollow eyes suddenly igniting with a blinding spectral light. A heavy metallic thud signaled the final lock. A low vibration rattled the floor as mana surged toward the dome. Luminous energy flooded the room cloaks, whipping in a sudden gale. It's opening, someone shouted over the howling wind. The prince approached, breath hitching. As the blinding glare faded, a rugged, heavy block of metal was finally revealed. Vibrating with the literal weight of a hurricane, he named it the anvil that births the thunder. The party stood mesmerized, their features drenched in a neon blue radiance as the relic hummed within its ancient cradle. Felicia warned that they were not done yet. One last ritual was needed to wake this slumbering beast of a relic. She ordered the prince and Carrick to hold their ground while the rest of the crew fanned out into position. Gesturing to the luminous disk, she explained the play they needed to flood the platform with pure, concentrated mana. Everyone moved to their designated spots, forming a flawless ring of power around the artifact as the mana began to swirl. "Focus up," Felicia barked. She thrust her hands out, her fingertips dancing with jagged, crackling bolts of cerulean force. The energy sparked like miniature lightning, weaving between them, until they were caught in a glowing, sentient web of power. As their combined magic bled into the device, the entire chamber seemed to vibrate with a low, resonant frequency. Suddenly, Felicia screamed at her brother to crank up the output. He braced himself, unleashing a desperate surge of mana. She urged the team to hold the line. "Keep the flow steady. If your focus slips even for a second, we are toast." The siblings dumped their remaining reserves into the disc, the magical atmosphere turning thick and heavy enough to crush bone. The young prince's jaw locked, his face pale with agony as he channeled every scrap of his soul into the light. Without warning, the ritual peaked. A monstrous pillar of lightning detonated from the heart of the anvil. It tore through the mountain like a spear of godfire, obliterating the peak in a cataclysmic blast of thunder and light. As the blinding whiteout faded, the prince's vision swam. The chamber was gone, replaced by a hauntingly unfamiliar landscape. He stood alone in a colossal burning cathedral, surrounded by the broken corpses of a slaughtered dwarven army. Ash and ruin choked the horizon as a terrifying godlike voice boomed through the wreckage, vibrating in the prince's very bones. The sound rumbled like a landslide, sending a chill of pure terror down his spine. He looked up, searching for the source. Through the thick, suffocating soot, a massive god-tier entity began to descend. The prince's eyes widened in sheer paralyzing horror. A colossal black dragon looms over the carnage, its obsidian scales glistening with a lethal sheen. Crimson fire burns within its gaze, as a suffocating aura causes the very atmosphere to vibrate. The beast exhales a tidal wave of flames, incinerating the hall, while its roar echoes inside his skull. It bellows orders for its minions to protect Enkidu's hallowed nest, decreeing that the gateway, bridging the human and demon worlds, be locked forever, naming him the ultimate sentinel of the rift. The nightmare dissolves in a searing light, slamming the prince back into reality atop the ruin's frigid floor. Trembling, he staggers to his feet, certain he just witnessed the mythic black dragon Enkidu in the flesh. Felicia's voice cuts through the haze, asking if he shared the same haunting sight of that massive obsidian beast. Veins of liquid magma pulsed through its skin. Her terror mirrors his own, and Carrick soon confesses that he also beheld the monster. A cold realization strikes the prince. They all shared the same nightmare, and Felicia nods solemnly. Uncertain of what this omen means for their quest, she pivots toward the ancient mysterious anvil. She vows that their salvation lies within, approaching the pulsating relic with grim, unshakable determination. Suddenly, a savage eruption of violet shadows explodes from her form as she reaches out. The malevolent haze swallows her whole, twisting her face in sheer agony while the chaotic power lashes out. This ruthless, untamed force shows no pity. The prince screams her name, his voice thick with pure desperation. Helplessly, he watches the void swallow her. She gasps for him to stop, but the storm chokes her voice. Defiant, he lunges forward to grab her hand, only to be yanked into the swirling vortex of madness. A cataclysmic blast of purple lightning erupts from the pair, rattling the very bedrock of the underground hall. Their allies look on in terror, calling out as the siblings vanish into the gale. The prince's scream rips through the air. Unbridled power shreds through his veins, nearly tearing him apart until one word resonates: conquer. The great earth dragon's voice booms, proclaiming this, a trial of fire for anyone unworthy of the relic's power. Conquest brands itself onto his mind like a hot iron before a blinding flash erases everything. As the dust settles, the hall stands devastated, choked by a lingering fog of violet miasma. Carrick and Caitlin gaze at the wreckage in stunned silence. Amidst the swirling ash and settling debris, the prince rises from the rubble, his skin flickering with violet sparks as he grips a bizarre obsidian blade. Dark markings stain his face and a sinister purple glow ignites within one eye. Elsewhere, the oblivious allied army rests at camp, completely unaware of the supernatural storm brewing nearby. Atop the jagged cliffs, Red Orc scouts observe the camp with sadistic grins, one tracking them through a lens. He sneers at the vulnerable troops below, mocking their pathetic attempt at concealment. They've been found. He asks his leader if it's time for the slaughter. The formidable chieftain of the Red Lightning tribe, Yakuzan, smirks with lethal intent, commanding his entire horde to prepare for a bloodbath. He bellows that the hour of reckoning has arrived to finally incinerate the human garbage left behind. Panicked soldiers snap to attention as an ominous thunder begins to vibrate through the canyon floor. Flaming meteors streak across the dark sky, raining down like a celestial execution upon the helpless camp. The campsite transforms into a hellscape of fire and debris as tents incinerate and steel shatters, and soldiers are hurled into the chaos. While magical fire rains from the peaks, their defenses crumble. The Red Orc vanguard begins its charge. Massive war mammoths stampede their tusks, reflecting the rising inferno. The horde follows with blood-curdling war cries that drown the valley, charging with a singular murderous hunger. Hungry to slaughter those crawling from the flames, the orcs close in while Chris spits a bitter curse. With their elite champions missing, he knows the army is just seconds away from total extinction. He remains paralyzed as relentless magical blasts continue to shred their camp to pieces. Despair etches his face as Yakuzen, the Orc King, watches the massacre from his mountain throne. Cackling at the carnage, he mocks the demons' hubris, claiming their pride has finally paved their graves. He orders his sorcerers to finish the job. Robed casters emerge, conjuring lethal currents of arcane lightning. A mage gathers a sphere of volatile purple light, ready to cast the final soul-extinguishing blow. Suddenly, shock contorts his face. A wave of horror hits as he realizes his hands have completely paralyzed. His gathered mana evaporates instantly, while the swamp mammoth beside him gets swallowed by a terrifying violet glow. The beast's eyes ignite with malice as its massive body vibrates with forbidden, unnatural strength. The charging orc vanguard stumbles in confusion, stunned by their war beast's sudden halt. Before they can even blink, The mammoth snaps, venting its rage on its former masters. Lethal violet bolts erupt from its massive tusks, wiping out entire squads of red orcs. Agonizing screams fill the air as the once proud horde is torn apart. Shredded by their own titan, the red orc chieftain's smug victory grin instantly turns into a mask of terror. He bellows in a fury, demanding to know who sabotaged their greatest weapon. His voice trembles with pure rage, thundering across the canyon walls. Down in the carnage, Chris watches in absolute shock. The mammoth, their literal executioner just seconds ago, is now soloing the entire enemy army. He can't process it. His brain short-circuits until the truth finally clicks. He realizes the prince must have claimed the anvil. Inside the ancient ruins, the young prince remains kneeling, shrouded in crackling violet sparks. He grips a weapon pulsing with dark, god-tier energy. It's the Thunder Hammer, the legendary companion to the anvil. A dark elf helps Felicia stand. She whispers that it seems the Earth Dragon Enkidu has finally chosen its master. The prince stares back, stunned. Words fail him, his mind unable to grasp the weight of this destiny. His sister steadies her breathing and commands him to wield that hammer and end this. Every eye is on him, his team, waiting for his next move. In that heartbeat, he finally understands the Earth Dragon's brutal test. That crushing power that broke him wasn't meant to kill him, it was meant to forge him. The true meaning of conquest is now etched into his soul. To conquer is to command is to reign supreme. That is the soul of the anvil's might. A confident smirk plays on his lips. He decides his first subject of domination will be that swamp mammoth. With iron resolve, he thrusts the thunderhammer skyward, lightning dancing up his arm, then slams it onto the anvil. A massive shockwave ripples from the ruins, tearing across the landscape. On the battlefield, the mammoth lets out a roar. Its skin blazes with that violet aura, now fully enslaved to the prince's iron will. It charges the red orcs, goring and crushing everything in a whirlwind of carnage. Orc soldiers panic as their battle cries turn into death rattles. As their ultimate beast butchers its own side, the red orc chieftain watches completely broken by the sight. His legendary army is being deleted right before his eyes. Across the ridge, General Vandal spots the betrayal. He instantly clocks what happened and shouts that the prince has succeeded. He doesn't waste a second. He signals the final charge, leading the allied forces to annihilate the chaotic red orc ranks. The impact is brutal. Allied orcs, fueled by pure vengeance, crash into the disorganized Red Lightning tribe like a tidal wave. The canyon becomes a storm of cold steel and blood, and the momentum has shifted. The chieftain stands paralyzed. His face twists in disbelief while his forces get absolutely cooked. A frantic scout begs him to retreat, but the chieftain snarls, refusing to back down. He hisses through his teeth, wondering who wields such godlike power. His internal monologue is cut short as Chris teleports behind him, delivering a bone-shattering strike. Staggering from the blow, the chieftain looks up to see the prince's brother glaring down with eyes of steel. He tells the orc leader that his reign of conquest officially ends today. He offers one final mercy: surrender now for a quick death. But the prideful chieftain responds with nothing but a roar of pure hatred. Defiance ringing out into the dark, the enraged chieftain lunges into the air with primitive fury, screaming that he'll rip Chris apart for such an insult. His massive body descends like a falling mountain, radiating pure bloodlust, but Chris doesn't flinch. He focuses every ounce of mana into his legendary Beastlord fist. He channels his entire existence into one explosive counter, meeting the chieftain's charge with a thunderous impact. The chieftain is completely folded. The sheer force of the punch sends the orc leader flying back, his body shattered. With their leader's pride and body broken, the remaining orcs stare in absolute horror as their icon falls. Their morale hits zero instantly, and terror spreads through the ranks like a virus. Their warrior spirit is dead. Chris drops his guard, his breathing heavy. He stares at his bloodied knuckles, flexing them with grim satisfaction. The war isn't over yet, but with the serpent's head severed, mopping up the rest will be a total walkover. Thoughts of his siblings flood back. With rare vulnerability, he admits they narrowly escaped a lethal fate. His features soften momentarily, but his eyes soon fixate on the horizon as a shadow of worry returns. He whispers a prayer for their safety. Inside the ruins, a mystical projection ripples above the ancient anvil, depicting the swamp mammoth crushing the Red Orc Legion and obliterating their ranks with savage, unstoppable fury. The dark elf watches the carnage mesmerized. She realizes the anvil's true terrifying might has finally been unleashed. The Red Lightning tribe is being erased from existence. Her voice trembles with awe, yet she feels cold satisfaction. Their enemies are facing total annihilation, but her strength suddenly fails as her entire body begins to shudder. Without warning, she collapses, drained by the artifact's massive magical recoil. Her allies rush to her side, panicked. She whispers that she only needs sleep. The dark elf starts preparing a bed, but then spots something alarming. The young prince has vanished. Moments later, they locate him standing in the cold air outside the ruins. He breathes a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a barrage of shimmering system notifications explodes before his eyes. Proof of his evolution. He blinks, stunned, as the messages confirm he has leveled up multiple times. This power is staggering. Is the anvil behind this insane growth? Another alert pings announcing that his conquest skill has reached a new tier. Pure hype. He summons his status window and gasps. His Under the King's Banner ability has also leveled up. A confident smirk tugs at his lips. Realizing his primary ability has grown stronger makes him feel unstoppable. He spots a fresh discovery, a skill called King's Knights. Based on the name, he suspects it is summoning power. A familiar voice cuts through his concentration. He snaps out of his trance as his sister Caitlin approaches him. Her face is etched with worry. He greets her with a bright, innocent smile, trying to play it cool. He admits he wandered off without a word, but before he can even apologize, a sharp pain hits him. Caitlin delivers a fierce chop to his skull. She fumes, demanding to know why he vanished and scared everyone. He winces, rubbing his head and offering a sincere apology. Seeing his regret, her anger finally begins to fade. She sighs, relieved he is safe. However, her tone turns serious as she reveals they face another major setback. Confusion hits him. He asks what she means. Caitlin begins to explain the truth. Felicia has slipped into a death-like slumber. The Red Lightning tribe had captured and drained her entire essence. Despite Felicia's claims that she was fine, her body has reached its breaking point. She is completely spent. They are stuck, unable to fly back. The young prince nods, though a gnawing dread takes root. He cannot stop worrying about Felicia's health. That night, the group huddles within the silent, oppressive ruins. Campfires flicker low in the darkness. The air feels heavy as they wait for Felicia to recover. The prince sits alone, pulling up his status screen one more time to check his progress. His vitality is fully replenished thanks to his massive level-up spree. He feels more refreshed than ever before. Even weirder exhaustion is nowhere to be found. He wonders if this peak condition will last until daybreak. A sudden inspiration strikes as he scans the ancient stone walls. The glowing carvings whisper of forgotten legends. This is no mere hall. They are deep within primeval ruins. This means untold secrets could be buried here. Legendary treasures, mythic armaments, or forbidden answers. His curiosity ignites as he imagines what lies ahead. His eyes sparkle with wonder. However, he knows such riches never sit unguarded by those who built this. Ancient sites like these are built on death with lethal traps and guardians designed to slaughter all trespassers. But as his hand grips the thunderhammer, a wicked smirk forms. The anvil's power thrums through his soul. Within these hollowed halls, he is no ordinary intruder. He is the master. The dungeon bows to his command. He realizes he holds absolute authority here. This entire ruin has effectively become his personal lethal playground. The guardians cannot strike him, and the traps are harmless. He has been granted a golden ticket. He can now scour every hidden chamber without risking his life. With ambition igniting, he turns to Carrick. The orc is still passed out on the cold floor, snoring loudly. The prince nudges him with his boot. Amusement dances in his eyes as he rouses his groggy companion. With a mischievous grin, he beckons him forward. "Follow me," he commands. As they venture deeper into the pitch-black corridors, Carrick stumbles along, half awake. The orc mumbles nervously, clearly unsure about what lies ahead. Carrick's nerves are fried, but the prince remains icy calm, reminding him that ruins like these are always gold mines for legendary loot. The moment he slides the next chamber door open, Carrick's heart stops. He gasps, pointing a shaking finger at a massive shadow slumbering on the floor. His voice cracks as he warns the prince, but the youth doesn't even flinch before the beast. "It's an archgolem," he explains coolly. "A stone-carved griffin built for absolute destruction. A ruin guardian. One swipe from this monster would turn any intruder into a pile of dust. He knows that in any other life, stumbling in here would have been a total death sentence. They'd be dead in seconds." Carrick gulps, admitting he has zero interest in catching its attention. The prince just smirks coward, he teases, cutting off the orc's protest before it even starts. Suddenly, fear turns to greed. Carrick's eyes bulge at a corner vault overflowing with literal mountains of wealth. Gold coins flood the floor, while enchanted blades and shimmering armor pieces glow like stars. Carrick grabs a golden breastplate, hoisting it high. The craftsmanship is straight up godly. "This is S-tier loot," he roars. The prince nods, feeling a thick magical aura humming from the metal. It's high-level enchanted gear, no doubt. Then flashing a sly, dangerous grin. He asks if Carrick wants it. The orc freezes in shock. The prince just laughs at his face. "It's too big for me anyway." Overjoyed, Carrick clutches the gift like it's a holy relic. He hugs the armor to his chest, beaming with pride. Meanwhile, the prince starts moving. He scoops up ancient gold, stashing the most broken items directly into his infinite inventory. "Take the rest," he says, strolling through the treasure like he owns the place. Suddenly, his gaze locks onto a massive ornate chest in the shadows, untouched and ominous. Instinct drives him forward. He unlatches the lid, but his face falls when he sees nothing. Just a single small button. He presses it. Instantly, the far wall groans and begins to shift. Mana flickers as the stone retracts, a deep grinding sound echoing as a hidden door yawns open. A pitch-black hallway awaits. A wicked grin spreads across his face. This is the real prize. He can feel the power. He strides into the dark, his boots clicking rhythmically against the stone. The tunnel is a silent void, leading to a massive chamber with a ceiling lost in shadow. In the center, an artifact floats in midair. It radiates a dark, crushing aura that chokes the room. The pressure hits his chest like a hammer. He's never seen it, yet he knows exactly what it is. The name carves itself into his soul. He whispers it in total awe. Enkidu's Gauntlet, the Earthshaker, a weapon of myths, one of the strongest relics in existence, pulsing with ancient fury. It beats like a god's heart. His own aura of conquest roars in response, recognizing its master. The pull is magnetic, irresistible. His hand rises on its own, desperate to touch the forbidden steel. Ding system alerts flood his vision. Warning, his current stats are too weak to equip this. He freezes. Even after his insane level grind, he's still not worthy of this god-tier weapon. But the gauntlet doesn't care. It flares with blinding light, its aura refusing to let him go. A new message flashes. Earthshaker has acknowledged its master. His brain stalls in shock. A golden explosion engulfs him. The metal turns into liquid energy, surging violently into his arm. He gasps as the power fuses with his veins. The armor rematerializes, locking onto his fist perfectly. It's a perfect fit. The Earthshaker now rests on his arm, heavy with the weight of destiny. Notifications go wild. His stats are skyrocketing past his wildest dreams. A confident smirk forms. With every level, his bond with this relic will only grow. This isn't just a weapon. He just claimed the key to the future. Enkidu's Gauntlet belongs to him now. Visions of absolute conquest race through his mind. His fate has officially been rewritten. Suddenly, a voice snaps him back. He spins around reflexively, hiding the glowing metal behind him. Carrick stands at the entrance looking absolutely stunned. "Boss, I saw everything." With a shaky voice, he reveals he saw the legendary gauntlet vanish right into the prince's palm. A cold sweat breaks out as the prince's heart races. He panics, fearing his ultimate secret has finally leaked. Is the truth about his inventory exposed? But Carrick simply offers a calm, knowing nod of reassurance. He tells the prince to relax, acknowledging that such dangerous knowledge is better left in the shadows. With a look of savage loyalty, the orc swears that even a blade to the neck wouldn't break his silence. The prince is stunned by the weight of his words, deeply moved by such a ride-or-die declaration. He offers a grateful nod, realizing Carrick has evolved into something far greater than just a loyal soldier. He is a true brother in arms. When Carrick suggests it's time to move out, the prince easily agrees. A smug grin creeps onto his face as he calculates the massive haul they've just secured. Success feels sweet, but the real hype is knowing this is just the tip of the iceberg. The duo retraces their steps through the shimmering vault, surrounded by mountains of ancient gold. Their footsteps ring out through the magical silence, until right before the exit, the prince stops dead. His sharp eyes catch a glint in the dirt, something valuable hidden beneath the piles of gold. He calls Carrick over, his voice buzzing with hype as he points toward a mysterious small vial. The liquid inside pulses with an eerie divine light. This is the ultimate game-changer they truly needed. The scene shifts to Felicia, looking ghost-pale, as her breathing grows dangerously thin and shallow. He carefully pours the glowing elixir down her throat. Instantly, its radiant power surges through her entire being. Color floods back into her face as the ancient potion works its magic, fully restoring her vitality. Her eyelids flutter open to find the prince leaning close, his features tight with genuine worry. He breathes a sigh of relief when she nods, even though she looks completely dazed and confused. She asks what happened in a faint whisper. Caitlin steps forward, her smile practically beaming with pride. She hypes up her brother, praising the quick thinking that saved her life with such a rare potion. Felicia is stunned. She can't wrap her head around where he managed to find such a high-tier item. The prince just laughs playfully, flexing that they are literally standing in a legendary treasure hoard. She stares at him for a beat before the reality of their situation finally sinks in. A shy, sheepish smile crosses her face as she admits she forgot. He just smirks back with total confidence. He declares himself the boss of these ruins, now telling her to just relax and recover. He promises her mana will be back to 100% soon. His words hit her with unexpected warmth. She thanks him softly, blushing hard. The prince freezes, totally caught off guard by her sincere vibe, but her genuine glowing smile leaves him speechless. Soon, the golden morning sun hits the land. The group treks back to the main base, exhausted but feeling like they're on top of the world. General Vandal meets them at the gate with a booming laugh and a massive, triumphant grin. He celebrates their win, but then Chris appears looking stiff and drowning in awkward formality. The prince is shocked to see his brother, who still seems haunted by their previous explosive argument. Chris is clearly struggling, his massive ego warring against the words he needs to say. Finally, he mutters that Felicia's performance was splendid. She just smirks, unbothered by the rare praise. The prince watches the awkward exchange with a sense of quiet, low-key satisfaction. It's a wholesome moment that actually makes him crack a real, genuine smile for once. Chris tells them to go crash while he handles the cleanup. The prince is totally confused. His brother explains that remnants of the Red Lightning tribe are still lurking in the region. Someone has to wipe them out. The prince smirks, already dreaming of a 2-week-long vacation. But Caitlin grabs his arm, her eyes flashing with pure annoyance. A vacation. Not on her watch. She tells him it's definitely not a break. With a devious grin, she reveals her master plan. Her little brother has some big responsibilities now, and he'll be doing them right by her side. The sun dips below the jagged mountains, casting long shadows over the dusty training grounds. He lunges, but a brutal impact snaps his body rigid. Damn, I didn't even see that coming, he gasps. His lungs scream for air. She's a blur of azure energy darting in with a warning. Lose focus and you're finished. The stakes are lethal. A heel crushes the earth. A hand sweeps the air, blinding him with a gritty whirlwind. Get up, she commands. He hacks out a ragged cough and smears the blood from his lip. He knew training would be hell, but this beast fist regime is straight up psychotic. So this is what Caitlin meant. This was her brutal to-do list. For 5 grueling days, he's been nothing more than a human punching bag. Battered and blood-soaked, it takes a full week before his eyes can finally track Caitlin's lightning-fast strikes. Her god-tier speed isn't invisible anymore. Around them, wood splinters and steel rails snap like twigs. Day 11. Their limbs clash like reaping scythes. She slips past his guard, a predatory smirk playing on her lips. Look who's finally catching up, she teases. He resets, pale aura swirling around his fists. After all that pain, he'd better be. This savage routine paid off. Both Beast Fist and Aura have surged to level 5. Night falls, the air thick with the hum of cicadas. Caitlin finally relaxes her stance and breathes out. Good. Tapping her temple, she promises he's nearly ready for the ultimate Beast God Fist initiation. His face lights up. For real, he asks, hands trembling with hype. She tosses her ponytail, admitting his progress is actually insane. She's never seen growth this fast. He steadies his breathing. Finally, the secret technique is within reach. The forbidden legacy of the lycanthrope's Beast God Fist. She steps forward, hand outstretched, inviting him in. Listen up. I'm teaching you the true way to command your aura. Don't blink. Don't miss a single beat. Follow my lead exactly. Got it, Sutra, she asks. He locks eyes with her. Yeah, let's do it. Their palms meet. A frigid light bleeds through their fingers, swelling before detonating into the sky. A colossal pillar of light shakes the world, leaves dance like embers as their synchronized auras pierce the heavens. Amidst the sapphire surge, he shuts his eyes, feeling the raw power vibrating through his very soul. Caitlin's aura floods into him. He's weightless in the torrent, shimmering coils of light binding his limbs like silk. It's pulling him deeper. The energy braids into radiant serpents, and he watches their lethal fluid rhythm. It feels like Beast Fist, but the fundamental logic is totally different. An infinite depth opens up below. He can sense it now, the true abyss within the aura itself. Deep below, a single star begins to glimmer. Ancient words echo in his mind. Aura isn't just energy, it's life essence. And when pushed to the absolute limit, it evolves into the power of the soul. A predatory pressure clamps around his heart. He knows this feeling. It's the thrill of conquest. A feral dominant power meant to seize and subdue everything in its path. Light explodes. He's free-falling through a luminous void. Is this it? Is this the true face of Aura? The pillar shatters a shockwave, stripping the trees bare. Golden system windows flicker into existence, chiming like bells. Beast Fist, level up. He watches as another screen shimmers Aura level up. The grind finally paid off. Caitlin lands wearing a stunned grin. Incredible. You actually pulled it off, Sutra. Then one final window glows. Skill acquired Beast God Fist level 11. He stares at his hand now vibrating with a terrifying new frequency. He centers himself. Beast God Fist. Earth Shaker. He strikes and the world begins to scream. A massive dust vortex claws at the sky. A final chime rings out. Current level 14. Massive gains. He lets out a sharp exhale. Yeah, this is the feeling. He looks up as leaves dance like dying stars. This is it. The real journey starts today. Deep in the shadows of the tree line, Vandal watches in silence. A faint smile touches Vandal's lips. By sunrise, golden light spills over the camp's breakfast table. Sutra scratches his head. Oh, by the way, can I ask you something? Caitlin looks up. He leans in close. What's the actual deal with Chris and Felicia? In his mind, he's calculating. Just like Chris. He needs Felicia as an ally. If their synergy is trash, it'll be a disaster later. Caitlin pauses, thinking. They don't hate each other, she explains, but there's this weird wall between them. She hesitates for a second. It wasn't just one fight. Sutra pushes. Then what is it? Caitlin leans back, her gaze becoming sharp. It probably traces back to the beef between Chris and Sylvain. Sutra blinks, totally caught off guard. Sylvan, she raps her knuckles on the table. Watch your tone, even if Sylvan isn't here right now. Man, calling him like that was a huge mistake. He rubs his neck sheepishly, apologizing for letting his guard slip. That name echoes in his mind, Sylvan Doomblade. Suddenly, memories from the game surge back with terrifying cinematic clarity. Back when he played as Zephyr, Sylvan was a nightmare to face. He looks up, his expression hardening instantly. Is there some beef between Chris and Sylvan? Suddenly, a massive shadow looms, and a cheerful voice rings out. So you're both here. They jump, startled by the sudden appearance. He spins around in his seat, heart racing. Chris, she smirks playfully, noting that her brother has arrived way earlier than the scheduled time. The blonde warrior gestures toward the door, grinning wide. Time to pack up, guys. We are moving out right now. The mission ended sooner than planned, so they are hitting the road today. The boy blinks, totally caught off guard. Leaving already? Where to? Chris raises an eyebrow, skeptical that he is actually being serious with that question. He is clueless, isn't he? Chris explains they must file a report immediately. Transition to the sunset-drenched training yard. Tents glow under the fading sun. Vandal grips their arms firmly, praising their hard work with a warrior's deep respect. Princes and princesses, he chuckles deeply. I am looking forward to our next meeting, ninth prince. The boy returns the handshake. Same here, Vandal. Chris rolls her shoulders, ready to leave this place behind. Shall we head out? She asks. He pumps a fist, hyped up. Chris stares at the horizon, her gaze sharpening. Next stop, the Demon King's castle. Suddenly, the world bleeds into crimson spires and dark echoing halls. A titan sits upon a throne, his armor radiating an eerie glow as shadows pool for the coming audience. The plan for their return is already etched into his mind. He calculates the path back to the castle. It is simple. Reach the nearest long-distance teleportation circle first. That is the only way to warp such distances. Then use high-tier transfer magic to blink straight to the castle gates. He runs the numbers in his head. The trip will take exactly 3 days. He sighs, realizing there are no cozy inns on this desolate path. Looks like another night camping under the stars. Later that evening, they huddle around a crackling orange fire. He mindlessly toys with a branch. Firelight dances across his face as he admits his true nervous feelings. Being this close to the Demon King's stronghold is actually making him sweat. He starts doodling patterns in the dirt. He traces names into the soil: Zephyr, Bikal, and Anastasia, the 3 titans currently ruling the royal court. He breaks down the power structure. Second, Prince Zephyr Ragnaros is basically the Demon King's biggest headache. Then there is First Prince Bikal Ragnaros, the eldest son and a literal mountain of a man. Fourth, Princess Anastasia Nikarian commands her own massive faction. In this Game of Thrones, birth order means absolutely nothing. Only raw achievement and sheer ability determine who gets to sit on that throne. It is survival of the fittest. Bikal and Zephyr are full-blooded brothers, both wielding the terrifying draconian bloodline passed down from their mother. Their sheer prestige is honestly overwhelming. He weighs the options aloud, trying to predict the coming chaos. Honestly, the level-headed Bikal would probably be the better choice for the crown if he had to pick one. But then he just shrugs. It does not matter. After that fateful day, the entire world will change anyway. His tone turns deadly serious. He must grind his level high to master Earthshaker and seize his destiny. He has to harness the new power fate gave him. Clenching his fist, he invokes the King's Order of Knights. A sharp ping from the system reacts instantly. He announces that the skill, Under the King's Flag, is active. A golden interface erupts in front of him. He thought this was just a basic summoning skill, but he was wrong. This is something else. He scans the screen. Order of Knights Level 1. Knight Captain slot is currently empty. Capacity is 0 out of 2. Knight training is blank. Blessing of HP boosts 5%, plus a legendary summoning skill. He rubs his temples, processing this madness. This is literally a guild system. Buff summons the whole package. Suddenly, he bursts into manic laughter. This is totally broken, he exclaims. His eyes stay glued to the screen, analyzing every overpowered detail. If it's this cracked at level 1, the final evolution will be god tier. A wicked smirk grows. Crunch. Footsteps break his focus. Out of the darkness, Carrick emerges with a massive scowl. The orc goes full dad mode, barking that he's awake again when he should be dreaming. Rest up if you want to leave early, he warns, gesturing wildly toward the beds. Our white-haired MC stands, clearing his throat awkwardly before flashing a mischievous, devious grin. Perfect timing, Carrick. His eyes ignite with a predatory glow as he leans in close. Want to help me test something? Carrick freezes nervously, scratching his neck and sweating bullets. Under the shimmering moonlight, the prince hoists his blade like a grand regal herald. With gravity in his voice, he proclaims Carrick as a mighty warrior standing before royalty. A radiant beam of light materializes. He gently rests the glowing steel on Carrick's massive shoulder. You are my knight. Boom. Pure energy detonates, surging into Carrick's veins as he trembles. Eyes wide with shock, the orc gasps. Something feels different. His loyalty just hit a new level. A system notification pings. Loyalty deepened. The internal bond is now unbreakable and absolute. Knight Captain Carrick, level 24, soldier rank. The prince's lips curl into a satisfied "oh." This is it, the perfect result. Waves of raw power radiate off the orc as he gasps. Gripping Carrick's shoulder, the prince's eyes burn with a fierce, unwavering intensity. Carrick, I'm going to make you the most powerful orc this world has ever seen. He promises to forge an emperor capable of slaying dragons. His laughter echoes with relentless ambition. Our potential is infinite, but Carrick just trembles, looking at his master with pure concern. Are you feeling sick, my lord? Next morning, they stand before a humming magical teleportation circle. Chris smirks, signaling it's time to move. He steps forward, his cloak dancing in the wind. It's time. The group huddles as a pillar of blue light erupts, consuming them entirely. They're ripped through the void like a shot spinning through the weightless, blinding white abyss. Hang on. His voice distorts into a frantic scream as they plummet through the chaotic light. Crash. He hits the dirt hard, dazed. Caitlin leans over his sweating form, checking for injuries. I'm fine, he stammers, waving her off. Ahead, the grand hall is buzzing with voices. A young dark elf sprints over, shouting for his elder sister Felicia. Crowds swarm her, praising her radiance and celebrating her long-awaited return to the fold. Felicia plays the part perfectly, smiling elegantly, while he watches with a cynical dry grin. She's got her own fan club, huh? He realizes these are her half-brothers and their followers. Heralds announce Prince Chris, while others flatter Caitlin, claiming she's grown even more stunning. The air is thick with formal welcomes and fake pleasantries as everyone asks after their health. Looking at the chaos, he mutters with a lopsided smile. Wait, where is my welcoming committee? Nearby elves whisper, completely ignoring him. His brow twitches. Seriously, not even a single look. He drifts to the shadows of the circle, calmly scanning the hall as clarity hits him. He finally sees it. He has zero influence here in the heart of the Demon King's territory. A dark smirk creeps onto his face. Fine by me. He turns to Carrick, eyes sharp, ready. Sunlight floods the windows, making his silver hair glow like a divine crown. With his cloak snapping like a war banner, he vows to rewrite this world's destiny. They're led to a cramped, pathetic room. Shutra just scoffs at their luxurious new digs. He quips they should be thankful for a roof. Carrick mentions they have time to kill. But Shutra knows the truth. This isn't a rest, they're just being left here to rot. Sudden sharp raps at the door startled him. Curious about their unexpected visitor, he swung it open, only to find a sophisticated woman waiting. She introduced herself as Flora Sevensword from the Real Estate Bureau. Shutra questioned why such a high-tier official sought him out. Flora quickly clarified the situation. His public merit had skyrocketed. Now he was eligible to select a luxury residence befitting his new rank. He was completely floored by the news. Soon after, he headed to the Office of Public Merits to claim it. There, a serpent-bodied woman welcomed him. He hesitantly asked if this was where he finalized his new estate. Isabella nodded gracefully. With a wave, she conjured a shimmering magical hologram before his eyes. It tallied his feats. His merit had hit level 5, unlocking top-tier clearance and insane privileges. He now earned a massive 500 gold salary. No other prince had ever pulled this off so early. Shutra felt flustered but totally hyped. He then asked to view the available mansion options. Isabella eagerly obliged. Moments later, Carrick stood paralyzed before a sprawling, magnificent estate. The grandeur was breathtaking. He stammered, asking if this golden-gated palace was actually their new home. It felt totally surreal. Inside the foyer, Flora was waiting, noting they had arrived earlier than anticipated. Rocking a flawless maid uniform, she bowed low with absolute professional poise. She pledged to serve as his new butler. A baffled Carrick whispered to Shutra, who just smirked in response. Shutra revealed he'd spent points to hire her. Seeing Carrick's confusion, he told him to just trust the process. Carrick could only mumble about his prince's weird flexes. Then came the big day, the royal audience. They prepped for the Demon King. In the dressing room, a nervous Carrick desperately needed a bathroom break. Sipping a drink, Shutra snapped at him to go, complaining that Carrick's whining was killing the vibe. Suddenly, a voice complimented their sharp looks, slicing right through the pre-ceremony tension. Caitlin and Felicia appeared glowing in gorgeous gowns. Caitlin gave all the styling credit to Felicia. Felicia beamed proud that her fashion choices hit the mark. Then Caitlin turned her teasing gaze toward Shutra. She mentioned how fire he looked in that suit. Blushing hard, he managed a quick thank you. He complimented their stunning looks too. Caitlin glowed while Felicia played it cool despite her smile. She joked that perfection was expected. Suddenly, Prince Chris arrived, radiating his usual boss energy. He reminded Shutra this was his big debut. Today, Shutra was the main character of the show. It was time to prove his value. Shutra locked eyes with him, ready. Then, the massive doors swung open. Blinding light flooded the hall. Shutra knew haters would call it luck, thinking he didn't belong in this circle. He was prepared to shut them all up. With cold resolve, he led his siblings into the throne room. Demon lords packed the hall as the royal heirs knelt before the legendary throne of King Nidra. Chris stepped up first, introducing himself as the seventh prince with utmost respect for their father. The king's face remained stone-cold red eyes glowing beneath his crown. An attendant then moved forward. The evaluation of the prince's feats was officially underway. As the report began, Shutra's heart raced. Looking at his father, a chilling realization hit Shutra. He'd been so focused on his own schemes that he forgot the ultimate truth. This man wasn't just his father, he was an absolute monster. A terrifying, invisible pressure suddenly crushed the hall. Shutra's body shook as he fought to remain upright. His father's aura was suffocating. Pain etched his face, but then the goddess of conquest's voice echoed. Her golden light flared, commanding him to conquer. He recalled the immense power he'd seized before. That light was his will. She reminded him that a real king never flinches under another's gaze. He had to bend that pressure to his own desires. Gritting his teeth, Shutra focused his internal energy. A golden explosion erupted from him, clashing with the king's dark aura. The light spread like wildfire. It pushed back the heavy atmosphere. His eyes blazed gold as he unleashed the ultimate power of conquest. The hall trembled from his defiance. For once, the king's stoic expression cracked with a hint of surprise. Then the king's booming voice filled the room, calling out one name, Shutra. The entire court froze. Everyone stared in pure shock. Still kneeling, Shutra looked up, completely stunned by the sudden turn of events. The Demon King's icy eyes locked onto Shutra, his booming voice announcing high expectations for the boy's destiny. Uttering Shutra's name with chilling precision, he made sure every noble in the massive chamber felt the weight. As recognition echoed, the royal court exploded into frantic, hushed gossip. Shock paralyzed the room. The king had never addressed his offspring by name. Tension rippled through the elite. Everyone wondered why this once useless ninth prince was suddenly center stage. Shutra, however, knew the score. He decoded the secret meaning. In this den of vipers, the king's favor was a violent shift in power. Swearing to exceed those expectations, Shutra left an indelible mark that would soon shake the entire realm. Back home, Carrick's panicked screams snapped him awake. The butler frantically pressured him to move. He brandished an urgent scroll from the Office of Public Merits, while Shutra shook off his daze. Confused by the sudden follow-up, Shutra aggressively tore open the official royal seal. His eyes nearly popped as he devoured the text. Carrick hovered nearby, desperate for the tea. Demanding answers, Carrick watched as a stunned Shutra admitted the contents were beyond his wildest dreams. The scroll held a direct high-stakes assignment personally ordered by the Demon King himself. Shutra met his royal siblings in a lavish hall, where Chris recited the mission's dangerous specifics. A lethal monster hunt. Caitlin instantly pinpointed the target, the treacherous and blood-soaked Anger Plains. He questioned if centaurs ruled there. She nodded, recalling the brutal training she and Chris endured there. Though Chris felt guilty for staying behind, Caitlin voiced total confidence in Shutra's solo survival skills. Chris's tone darkened, urging his brother to stay sharp. The game had changed forever. The entire palace now had eyes on him, some seeking alliances, others plotting his downfall. Shutra soaked it in, realizing that not even the legendary Zephyr had received such personal recognition. Chris pledged his total backing, insisting Shutra reach out whenever needed before his imminent departure. He needed to see Felicia first. They tracked her down amidst the scent of hay and beasts. Guarding two massive lizard mounts, she emphasized that survival in Centaur lands required elite speed. Shutra's thanks were genuine, but Felicia had one more surprise as she reached out. She held the Dark Elf's tear, a glowing blue relic that left Shutra absolutely speechless. He knew this legendary item only dropped upon her death. Felicia simply claimed her people repay debts. This was payment for his heroism. After wishing him luck, she caught him off guard with a sudden, deep embrace. Totally rattled, Shutra nearly slipped up with a cute nickname before she retreated. Blushing furiously, she avoided his gaze while he gave a small smirk at her rare affection. Gearing up for the unknown, Shutra and Carrick prepped their beasts for the long trek. They hit the teleportation pad, disappearing in a flash of sapphire light as Felicia looked on. Alone, she whispered a prayer for him. Suddenly, a violent spark signaled their arrival miles away. They touched down on a desolate platform amidst the endless scorching winds of the Anger Plains. Swirling dust choked the air. Carrick questioned their location only to see Shutra's confident, cocky smirk. This was it. A mysterious warrior soon approached, bowing deeply to the rising ninth prince. She introduced herself as Karma, an elite ranger tasked with guiding them through the wasteland. Shutra clocked her hybrid form, half human, half beast, instantly recognizing her as a fierce sauter. Impressed by his knowledge, she urged them forward. Their grueling trek across the wastes officially kicked off. Lizards kicked up grit as Karma blurred ahead. She warned that the journey would span 48 hours. Questioning his stamina, she asked about reinforcements. Shutra simply shook his head at the thought. It was a solo op until they linked with centaur armies for the final bloody showdown. Calculating the odds, Shutra decided a long spear was the ultimate weapon for mounted combat. Suddenly, his supernatural hearing picked up an eerie vibration. He immediately signaled Karma to halt. She ordered him back to scout, but the ground suddenly fractured under a wave of invisible force. Debris flew as Karma charged her, face draining of color at the sight of a Cassius stampede. Shutra hunted a lone satyr across the flats. Out of nowhere, a monstrous pack surged in a premature strike. A tide of fangs and shadows closed in. The satyr scrambled in pure hysteria as a massive wolf lunged. Massive jaws snapped shut. But before the beast could bite, Shutra kicked his mount into high gear. He slammed into the predator, sending it flying and snatching the satyr from the jaws of death. The bone-shattering collision buried the shadow wolf in the dunes, triggering a massive explosion of grit and dust. Shutra's mount dug its talons into the earth, standing like an iron wall to protect the fallen satyr. The rest of the pack snarled. Shutra merely smirked, noting that the welcoming party had arrived right on schedule. Actually a bit early. The mythical Earthshaker gauntlet manifested around his forearm, radiating a divine golden glow. Its golden pulse hummed with raw energy. To him, this lethal ambush was just a minor annoyance. A wild grin spread across his face. He'd been itching for a real fight, and now he had one. Still shaking, the satyr watched the ninth prince tower over the battlefield atop his scaled beast. Facing the pack alone, the massive alpha wolf stepped out. It let loose a roar that shook the air. Claiming dominance, the beast lunged with terrifying speed. Its glowing red eyes were fixed onto the prince. Karma yelled in panic while Carrick warned that charging in solo was a total suicide mission. Shutra dismissed them with a casual wave. Just watch, he told them, before vanishing in a blur. He vaulted from his saddle, soaring through the sky to meet the lunging predator head-on. This was the perfect playground to unleash the devastating power of his beast god fist technique. Mid-air, he intercepted the wolf's flaming eyes and snapping jaws. His gauntlet burned like molten sunlight. His aura exploded as he channeled everything into one strike. He unleashed the legendary Fist of Explosion. A blinding golden detonation ripped through the atmosphere, sending shockwaves screaming across the open plains. The alpha's head vaporized in a burst of shadow. Its limp carcass slammed hard into the desert floor. Shutra touched down with lethal poise, his gauntlet still steaming. The surviving wolves stood frozen in terror. Snarling turned into fearful whimpers. They retreated from the boy who had just deleted their leader. Shutra marveled at his weapon, feeling the aura amplification. A confident, dangerous smile played on his lips. This power rivaled Caitlyn herself. Karma and Carrick could only stare at the prince in stunned silence. Shock melted into pure admiration. The satyr gasped for air and introduced himself as Swift Wind. He was their assigned scout. Now, owing his life to them, he pledged to guide them forward. Suddenly, the alpha's headless remains began to pulse with a sinister, corrupt purple light, a grim sign of corruption. Shaking it off, they trekked across the wasteland until they hit the ridge. Below them lay a massive centaur fortress. This was the heart of the 4 legendary tribes. Fierce Wind, Heavy Rain, Raging Flame, and Rough Night. The Flame tribe held the crown. Their supreme chieftain, Savage Eyes, stepped out to meet them. The warrior was an absolute mountain. He spoke with chilling authority. Shutra recognized him instantly, a notorious antagonist from the game. This man was once a deadly enemy. Carrick whispered that the chieftain's gaze alone could kill. Shutra stood tall as the ninth prince. Savage Eyes scanned him, weighing the young demon's soul. Shutra didn't blink. He stared right back, demanding an evaluation of the current situation. Inside the yurt, Savage Eyes pointed to a map. The circumstances were worse than they thought. The Cassius herd was moving south early. Some claimed it was just a small group, but they were wrong. Shutra knew better from the game. Optimism was a death sentence. The chieftain revealed the battle plan. In 3 days, the tribes would unite for war. Shutra hoped he could change the tragic outcome. He needed to rewrite history. As the meeting broke, Savage Eyes called out with a cunning smirk. He asked if the rumors were true. Did the prince really crush a beast's skull barehanded? Shutra's grin returned. He confirmed the feat and offered a live demonstration whenever the chieftain was ready. For a moment, the warrior looked genuinely intrigued. He accepted, eager to see that power in person. As Shutra walked, the camp whispers followed. The centaurs spoke of the prince who was becoming a legend. Cracking a joke about his riz to kill the tension, he quickly pivoted, urging Shutra to rest before the impending bloodbath. Shutra drifted into a deep slumber, totally oblivious to the legendary power awakening right beside him. Near his pillow, the gauntlet on his arm began to throb with an eerie emerald light. The blinding radiance jolted him awake. Staring in shock at the fully summoned Earthshaker, he whispered its name into the dark. A soothing voice filled the air, and his eyes widened at the celestial vision of a breathtakingly gorgeous, elf-like lady bathed in a soft green aura. His pupils shimmered as she made a desperate plea for his urgent assistance. Dazed, he demanded her identity. Her gaze turned gentle as she revealed herself as the legendary Green Wind. That name hit like a truck. He knew the lore. The Green Wind was a top-tier nature spirit and guardian, the protector of the plains and the heart of all life. Suddenly, the entire room dissolved into nothingness. His mind was yanked into a swirling neon green dimension, drifting alongside the ethereal spirit. She explained this was her domain, the core of the ankle planes housing a piece of her divine creator, the Watcher ankle. As he marveled at the view, a terrifying epiphany crashed over him like a tidal wave. This god-tier energy wasn't just familiar, it was lethally linked to the chaos coming his way. The name Ankle sent shivers down Shutra's back. Memories of the game's ultimate lore flooded his mind instantly. Ankle was an elder dragon, a literal god so broken that no player could ever hope to face them. He stared at his gauntlet, a legendary relic forged by yet another primeval entity from the past. This wasn't just RNG, it was destiny. Suddenly, the Green Wind's voice snapped him back to reality. Her voice grew desperate, warning that northern monsters were invading her sanctuary to drain the very life from the land. If they won, her world and her soul would vanish. She claimed only he had the power to stop them. Shutra hesitated, arguing he lacked the stats for this quest. But the spirit didn't want to hear it. She reminded him of Enkidu's dormant power within. Suddenly, a golden aura exploded from his body. She promised that the dragon fragment inside her temple would give him the ultimate power-up. As she vanished, she told him to show her token to her followers, the tribes who still prayed to her. Flash, he was back in bed, gasping for air. A vibrant green mark now glowed on his hand. A radiant emerald crystal appeared in his hand, holy proof of the encounter. Outside, Savage Eyes was screaming, demanding to know why the prince was mentioning the green wind. Shutra warned that the holy temple was under siege. The chieftain was skeptical until Shutra raised his shimmering hand, revealing the divine glowing crystal. As the green light hit his eyes, the chief's doubt died. His face hardened with pure warrior resolve. "What are your orders?" he asked. Soon, beneath a scorching sun, the centaur army roared across the plains. Banners snapped, and spears gleamed as hundreds of centaur warriors charged forward with lethal intent. Shutra led from the center, his aura massive despite his size, while his mount kept pace with the stampede. Checking his enchanted map, he verified they were locked onto the Green Wind's hidden temple. Its silhouette flickered in the distance, bathed in emerald. Without that map, they'd be walking in circles. A scout's scream shattered the silence. Ahead, a sea of monstrous Cassius beasts blackened the horizon. Thousands of glowing eyes burned like embers in the dark. Shutra felt a cold knot in his stomach. How did these monsters find the hidden temple? A traitor must be pulling the strings from the shadows. Savage Eyes grunted, noting they were outnumbered. "Give the word, Prince. How do we play this?" Remembering the spirit's plea, Shutra vowed to reach the temple and absorb the sealed power of Ankle. The chief's job was to hold the line. Shutra turned to Carrick and Karma, his eyes blazing. "Let's move," they nodded. Savage Eyes hoisted his massive blade toward the heavens. His roar commanded the tribes to hold. A unified battle cry exploded, followed by the thunder of 1,000 hooves. Arrows blotted out the sun, raining a lethal storm of black steel onto the advancing monster horde. The collision was brutal. Steel met claw in a chaotic bloodbath as the centaurs fought with primal ferocity. They sliced through monsters like butter. In the carnage, Shutra's squad blitzed through the enemy's front lines. Speeding toward the temple, Carrick roared that their only goal was delivering the prince to the sanctuary alive. With Shutra's nod, Carrick let out a primal roar, his heavy axe carving through shadow wolves like paper. Carrick's swings were pure destruction. Beside him, Karma was a blur, her twin daggers flashing with lethal intent. Precision met speed as she shredded enemies. Shutra pushed his mount forward, the ancient temple finally coming into view. Suddenly, a colossal shadow eclipsed the sun. A monstrous minotaur slammed down right in Shutra's path. The impact shattered the earth, crushing his horse instantly. Shutra was sent flying, hitting the dirt with a painful thud. The beast hoisted a massive club, letting out a victory roar as it stomped toward the fallen prince. Frustrated by his slip-up, Shutra scrambled up. Just as the beast swung, Carrick leaped in to tank the hit. Steel met wood in a shower of golden sparks. Shutra breathed a sigh of relief as his knight held firm. Carrick barked for him to move. No nap time today. The minotaur struck again, but the orc stood his ground. Blocking with raw power, he made the ground tremble. Carrick wasn't backing down, not even a single inch. Smirking through the chaos, Shutra teased that Carrick better not lose after talking all that big game. Hand-glowing Shutra triggered a support skill. Suddenly, a massive pillar of light engulfed the orc warrior. Radiant energy flooded his veins. Carrick let out a sky-shaking roar as the buff maxed out his stats. With muscles pulsing with divine light, Shutra declared the defense over. It was time to go on the offensive. They were bringing the heat. Overcharged with light, Carrick unleashed a devastating forward thrust with his axe. The beast stumbled back as golden shockwaves rocked the field. The counterattack had officially begun. The Minotaur's eyes widened in terror. Carrick's raw strength was now on a completely different level. Seizing the opening, the orc leaped skyward, bringing his heavy blade down with the weight of a mountain. The energy-charged arc slammed into the beast, shattering the earth beneath its massive hooves. Dust settled into a heavy silence. Out of breath, Carrick urged the prince to keep moving forward. Leaving it to Carrick, Shutra dashed for the temple, his red cape fluttering as he scaled the stairs. He breached the glowing sanctuary. Inside, the spirit's voice pleaded for haste as his goblet pulsed emerald. A trail of light spilled out, leading him through the crumbling ancient hallways of the sacred ruin. The light guided him to a massive inner sanctum, where gargantuan roots blanketed the entire floor. A legendary tree stood at the center, radiating life force. The very air hummed with divine energy. Shimmering leaves danced as the wind spirit reappeared, reaching her glowing hand toward the ancient trunk. Deep within the wood, a dragon heart pulsed. Shutra froze, feeling the overwhelming power radiating from it. This fragment of ankle held an elder dragon's soul. This sacred power was the only reason the plains remained peaceful. Ankle's protective barrier originated here, flowing from this holy site to shield the world. If the temple fell, the world would burn. She begged him to awaken the magic and crush the invaders. Savage Eyes screamed for his troops to hold the line. Nearby, Carrick's axe split another minotaur in half. Steel sparked as Karma danced through shadow wolves, her daggers carving a path of blood through the darkness. A guardian sensed the encroaching darkness. The spirit's voice shook with desperation as the enemy closed in. She begged him to save her children, offering the dragon heart. Shutra finally reached out and touched the relic. As he accepted the burden, a tempest of emerald energy exploded, surging through his body like a storm. His vision whited out. Suddenly, Shutra was standing in the middle of a vast, star-filled cosmic void. Before him loomed the elder dragon Ankle. Its 3 ancient eyes shimmered with the wisdom of the universe. The dragon's voice thundered through the heavens, issuing a single absolute command: take it back. Back in reality, the temple detonated in emerald light. A massive beam shot into the clouds, visible for miles. The war zone went silent as everyone stared in shock. Carrick glanced back, knowing exactly what was happening. Covered in blood, he knew this was the prince's work. Suddenly, the entire continent began to shake. Thorny vines erupted from the dirt, coiling together. Through the magical storm, a gargantuan wooden foot slammed down. Giants of bark and stone followed. The ancient forest guardians had finally awakened. These new titans charged their branch-like limbs, pulverizing shadow beasts by the dozens. A minotaur was flattened instantly. The tide turned. Chaos was replaced by the raw, unstoppable fury of nature. Deep in the shrine, the verdant breeze exhaled, signaling Ankle's magic had finally stirred. She gazed at Shutra with immense gratitude. She thanked him for shielding the Engel plains, but that peace vanished. The Dragonheart's power wasn't stabilizing. Instead, it surged straight into the prince. Horrified, she gasped, demanding to know why the mana was targeting him. The temple wasn't being reinforced. Terror struck her as she realized he was devouring the Elder Dragon's essence. Shutra's frame shuddered, violently blinding white light, consuming his eyes as pure energy shredded his insides. She shrieked for him to stop, fearing his human vessel would shatter. But through the excruciating pain, a brilliant golden radiance exploded. System pings flooded his mind. His level skyrocketed as every wound vanished instantly. Divine light mended his glowing skin. The spirit watched paralyzed as the impossible played out before her eyes. That golden aura intensified his strength, spiking repeatedly as his level counter climbed higher and higher. Deep within his mind, the goddess of conquest manifested, her voice echoing with absolute authority. She commanded him to dominate the dragon heart, to seize its ancient force, and force it to submit. Shutra gripped his fist, resolved to claim this power regardless of the pain. The goddess's decree rang out, declaring that even an elder dragon's ghost would yield to his unbreakable spirit. Back in the sanctuary, the pulsating green dragon heart merged into his chest. The central ancient tree gave one final heavy thrum. Then a massive shockwave of light erupted. The blinding glare faded, leaving the chamber bathed in serene, emerald light as glowing particles drifted like snow. Shutra collapsed forward, gasping for air after the trial. Dragging himself up, a shimmering jade aura clung to his skin as the evolution finalized. He stood tall, eyes flashing with lethal new power. The goddess's fading whisper bestowed a new title. The Night of Conquest alerts rained down. Dragon physiology, dragon blood, absolute poison immunity. Level 17 achieved. His new status, Dragonborn. He understood the weight of it. A being who awakened latent dragon genes, now capable of wielding primordial draconic arts. The truth hit him. His nemesis Zephyr had wielded this exact power through his bloodline. Now they were on level ground. The green spirit reappeared, her voice trembling with sheer reverence. She felt Ankle's soul pulsing within him, undeniable proof that he now possessed the heart and form of a dragon. Though sealed for a millennium, she felt no remorse seeing it reborn through his soul. Naming him the successor of the Watcher, she begged him to protect the Engel Plains and her kin, the centaurs and satyrs. A smirk played on Shutra's lips as he accepted the burden without flinching. Outside, the war was still screaming. The colossal tree guardians were pulverizing the enemy with earth-shattering force, shredding monsters like dry grass. Yet a massive minotaur commander towered over the carnage, deadlier than the rest. Its menacing aura rallied the horde. The beast roared, driving its army against the struggling centaurs and guardians. Stepping from the temple, Shutra's eyes immediately locked onto the beast, identifying the enemy general. He coiled, then lunged from the stairs in a shockwave of speed. Landing mid-fray, he shouted to Carrick, who looked back in disbelief at his transformation. The commander snarled, its blood-red eyes burning with hatred. As it swung a titanic axe, Shutra met its gaze unflinchingly, countering with a fist charged with golden energy, aiming straight for its heart. The monster pivoted, delivering a savage backhand that struck with brutal force, sending him tumbling through the dirt. It lunged, axe raised for the kill, but Shutra braced himself. Eyes blazed with lethal focus. He promised the beast that its luck had finally run out. Focusing mana into his knuckles, he launched the Fist of Explosion, unleashing a devastating wave of gold. Tearing into the commander, the strike landed flush, yet the Minotaur only staggered back a few paces. Its hide was impenetrable. Gritting his teeth, Shutra knew pure brawn wouldn't cut it as he dodged another swing. Amidst the dust and sparks, a smirk appeared. It was time to reveal something truly game-changing. He triggered Dragon Blood. A violent vortex of violet energy erupted, wrapping around him like sentient flames. A system notification chimed. His Earthshaker gauntlet had finally unlocked its true awakened form. Lightning crackled across its surface as power flooded his arm, pouring every ounce of will into the weapon. Shutra bet everything on this final strike. The Minotaur bellowed and charged, but he stood his ground. A colossal eruption of gold and violet mana detonated between them. Amidst the chaos, he roared for Carrick, signaling the tag team. Activating the skill, Summon the King's Knight, Carrick flashed into existence directly behind the commander in a blinding strobe of light. The beast stood paralyzed as Carrick's massive axe plummeted from the sky, cleaving straight into the monstrosity's thick skull. A brutal explosion followed as the commander shrieked in pain, reeling from the ambush. Sutra's gauntlet throbbed with a sinister purple glow. "Eyes on me," he barked. The commander spun around, its crimson gaze now flickering with a mixture of fury and pure dread. Detecting the lethal pressure mounting before it, the monster froze. Meanwhile, a savage smirk tugged at Sutra's lips. Vowing that this strike would be its last, he ignited every drop of mana, Dragon Blood Conquest, merging the Earthshaker's might into one fatal blow. Wings of swirling violet and gold erupted as he rocketed forward like a falling star. Reality itself seemed to fracture as he unleashed the Earthquake's secret art, a single absolute finisher. The shockwave tore across the field, destined to end the struggle. A massive golden nova consumed the bull-headed titan. A titanic crater ripped into the earth, sending shockwaves through the air as the ground splintered and boulders were launched skyward. While warriors shielded their eyes from the scorching light system alerts, suddenly began populating Sutra's vision at the heart of the blast. Level up achieved. The boss, Drake Ogre Mustafa, was slain, and the legendary title Drake Ogre Slayer was officially his. Sutra stood amidst the ruins, his cloak snapping in the wind, while golden embers and smoke danced through the desolate air. The monster's remains evaporated into the shadows. Panting heavily, he slumped in fatigue, realizing his mana pool was nearly bone dry. Hovering on the brink of collapse, he realized that wielding the Earthshaker's true power demanded aura mastery beyond his current rank. He was still lacking. This meant Gigantic Piston had yet to even reach its ultimate peak evolution. A sharp grin flashed across his face as light pulsed on his knuckles. There was still so much untapped power to unlock. Carrick hollered that the enemy was breaking rank. Sutra looked up as the centaurs charged forward with a lethal new energy. Battle cries filled the air as warriors mowed down the retreating monsters, the commander ordering that not a single beast be spared. Steel flashed red under the dying sun as the hunt swept across the wastes. Soon, darkness swallowed the scarred battlefield. Beneath the frigid stars, the land fell into a bruised silence, broken only by the distant flickering orange glow of campfires. At the Centaur camp, celebration erupted. Laughter and victory songs filled the night, while warriors toasted with overflowing mugs. Triumphant shouts echoed into the void. But amidst the raucous party, Sutra quietly slipped away into the night. Drawn toward a mystical tree glowing with emerald fireflies, the spirit green wind materialized from the shimmering leaves. She teased him with a smile, saying he looked like he was having a blast. He countered that he was seeking answers. She nodded, acknowledging she owed him the truth after he successfully cleared her urgent request. But first, she asked if he intended to release the dominion he now held. Confused, Sutra blinked at the term. She explained that by absorbing Ankle's essence, he had effectively bound her, a spirit of that same power, to his very soul. Reality hit him hard. Awkwardly, he confessed he had zero clue how to actually set her free. She stared in pure shock, calling him a reckless master, who might accidentally make her his servant forever out of ignorance. He argued that no one had given him a manual as she accused him of faking it. Flustered, he told her to chill. He asked her to clarify her status. She revealed she was now essentially an extension of his body, mana, and soul. She was bound to him as her master. Panicked, he waved it off, asking if she was at least feeling okay. She was fine, but warned that if she left permanently, the ankle planes would lose their vibrant life and fade to gray. Since she was the realm's core magic, he suggested she just stay behind, telling her there was no need to follow him. Her face fell, looking totally crushed. She asked if he was dumping her. Panicked, he quickly backtracked. When asked if she actually wanted to come along, she nodded earnestly. It was a spirit's nature to stay by her master. He sighed, realizing he had accidentally triggered a high-level spirit contract. Recalling her warning, he asked if they could create a substitute to keep the planes alive while she was gone. Her eyes lit up. It was possible, she said, though it would drain a massive amount of her power and time. The ancient tree shimmered in approval. He decided that was the plan. They would leave a magical proxy behind. This way, she could join his party. She hesitated, noting the process would leave her weakened for a while. But he just grinned. A nature spirit companion he figured was an absolute win of a trade. Relief washed over her as she beamed, clasping her hands and calling him master, with newfound affection. Smirking, he noted the first issue was handled, but more questions lingered. Locking eyes with her, he demanded the truth about Ankle's demise. Her ethereal radiance flickered as she confessed her fractured memories. She was merely a spectral shard, reborn without a past. One chilling fact remained: a millennium ago, Ankle was brutally assassinated. The word hit Sutra like a physical blow. The killer's identity was a mystery, though no other elder dragon was responsible. Murdered. Sutra breathed the word, heavy with dread. The thought of a god-tier being hunted sent shivers down his spine. Green Wind floated closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. She suggested he ditch the formalities. A master shouldn't sound so stiff. Awkwardly rubbing his neck, he gave a curt nod. Pivoting, he asked if his status as Ankle's heir meant he could consume the essence of other elder dragons too. Tapping her chin, she mused that while normally impossible, he might just be the ultimate glitch in the system. He already balanced the clashing powers of Ankle and Enkidu, proving his vessel could endure the impossible. Thus, his body could likely tank the might of every elder dragon. Sutra let out a stunned, breathless laugh. Chalking it up to classic protagonist energy, he locked back in for one final, crucial inquiry. What was that bizarre energy surging within him? She sighed, her hazy mind unable to offer more than vague fragments. Suddenly, her form erupted in a blinding flash. Sutra recoiled, shielding his face as a startled cry escaped him. Her voice boomed with divine authority, declaring him the Knight of Conquest, a being forged with the soul of a king. She proclaimed his power was absolute dominion, a mandate to subjugate and rule everything under the heavens. Beneath her blinding light, the terrifying weight of his potential finally crushed Sutra's senses as the words echoed in the dark. Dawn's light sliced through the temple ruins as soft footsteps clicked against stone. With a muffled groan, Sutra slowly stirred. He sat up, rubbing his bleary eyes while mumbling about his late-night encounter with the Green Wind. Though the memory felt like a fever dream, an emerald glow descended, and the spirit materialized in a swirl of light. She calmly asked if her master had finally returned to the living. Sutra whispered her name, grounded by her presence. She explained that Ankle's lingering consciousness had surged through her, likely short-circuiting his mind with its raw power. The shock had knocked him out cold. Now ethereal visions of dancing leaves and booming voices filled the air once more. Echoing her decree, a Knight of Conquest is born to rule, destined to sit upon the throne of creation. Those words vanished like a breeze, replaced by her solemn vow of eternal fealty to her new master. Connecting the dots, Sutra realized this was the true essence of conquest, the absolute power of a king. Had Ankle predicted this awakening from the start? Bowing low, Green Wind prepared to reveal a long-buried secret. Since their fates were now tied forever, she confessed there was a crucial piece of information she had withheld. Glowing runes ignited the air as she pointed toward the northern horizon, where a lost piece of history awaited. At the edge of the plains lay a relic of Ankle. A god's relic, Sutra repeated, his voice hushed. It was an artifact surging with an elder dragon's vitality, a legendary item known to the world as the Shield of Life. A millennium ago, the Watcher had gifted this shield to the most valiant centaur warrior to ever walk the earth. He led his tribe to glory, never once tasting the bite of steel. Yet his end was far from honorable. Betrayed in his sleep, he was slain by a woman sent by those desperate to steal his legendary power. Since only the chosen could wield it, his loyal kin buried the shield alongside him in the frozen wasteland. Over centuries, it became a mythic legend, White Suri. Hearing the name Sutra's eyes snapped wide with shock. He knew that name. It was a fabled artifact buried deep within the hidden lore of the Night Saga. A shield no player had ever glimpsed. Excitement surged. It wasn't just a myth, it was a literal elder dragon relic. Sensing his recognition, Green Wind asked if he knew the way. He nodded frantically, demanding the tomb's coordinates. She promised to lead him once her replacement in the plains was ready to take over her duties. When he asked for a time frame, she gave him a 2-day window. Sutra agreed. Their departure was set. Reaching the far north would be a brutal trek, but the thrill of the hunt electrified his veins. With White Suri in hand, the challenges ahead would crumble. Pacing the temple, his mind whirred with strategy. The northern expedition could easily be disguised as a mission to wipe out the remaining Cassius stragglers. However, the real threat loomed. The temple's activation had definitely pinged the Demon King's radar. An inspection squad would be here soon. By his math, they had less than 7 days to vanish. Best to bounce now, Shutra thought, but Savage Eyes suddenly barged in, shattering his focus. An envoy from the Demon King's citadel had arrived. Shutra stiffened, whispering that they were way too early. Suddenly, a familiar white-haired beauty marched in with her entourage, her sharp eyes scanning the room. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she teased. He knew that face anywhere. It was Felicia. He demanded answers for her presence, but she cut him off, insisting on proper introductions first. She gestured to a teal-skinned maiden who bowed elegantly, identifying herself as the graceful Daphne, daughter of Echo, the 5th concubine. Shutra's mind spiraled. He knew her as the legendary Dryad Druid. She was a key half-sibling from the game's lore, a powerhouse ally he absolutely needed to recruit. Felicia crossed her arms, explaining that Daphne's druidic mastery would be a massive flex for their team. Tapping into the spirits of the plains, Daphne flashed a warm smile, ready to join his cause. Shutra knew he had to act boss. He turned to Felicia, questioning why she wasn't at the mountains. She was supposed to be researching the Thunder Anvil, but claimed his lightning-fast mission ruined her schedule. His speedrun had triggered alarms. A simple subjugation took him only 2 days instead of 2 weeks. His clout was exploding. Usually the higher-ups would have sent someone far scarier to grill him. When asked if she was his babysitter, she confessed that observation was only half the reason. She was also vibing with the temple's magic. Shutra realized that behind her icy mask, she actually cared. Felicia had a soft side after all. He offered his thanks and she gave an airy clap. "What's the play?" she asked. He planned a trek north to purge the remaining Cassius monsters. Secretly, he was hunting for White Suri. Savage Eyes, the centaur boss, insisted on joining the raid. Shutra hesitated, but the chieftain wouldn't budge as leader. He had to lead the charge himself. Giving in, Shutra nodded. Felicia suddenly volunteered too, claiming live specimens beat rotting corpses for research. Daphne tagged along, noting that more firepower meant a safer journey for everyone involved. Shutra groaned internally. His simple cover story had just spiraled into a full-blown elite expedition. Scanning the horizon, Karak grumbled about a bad omen. Things were about to get messy. Days later, the northern peaks loomed beneath a vast, chillingly clear sky. A beastly roar tore through the air. The squad locked in as Karak flashed a wild grin. His gut was right. Shadows erupted from the terrain fangs, bared as the party readied for war. With his cloak whipping in the gale, Shutra stood firm. He was locked and loaded for combat. The elf and centaur warriors snapped into formation, ready to clash with the incoming swarm. A massive wolf lunged at the prince, aiming to tear through his defenses with raw aggression. Shutra dodged with effortless grace, baffled by how these beasts had respawned so fast. They had cleared the area before this was impossible. Then the sky darkened, with winged stone monsters. Gargoyle-like nightmares descended from the clouds. Shutra instantly identified them as geists. This was going to be a real grind. A piercing emerald light ignited in his eyes. "You're not the only ones with wings," he growled, channeling his wind-blessing power. Gravity vanished. He soared upward, gaining speed, while Greenwind watched in total disbelief. The tiny fairy shrieked, wondering how he stole her magic. He just blasted toward the geists. A monster froze in shock, unable to process a human child flying straight into its face. Shutra loaded an explosive fist and detonated it right against the beast's skull. The impact was legendary. The geist was deleted from the sky. Hovering, Shutra glared at the remaining mob with killing intent. "Vanish already, you're annoying," he snapped. Below, Greenwind was having an existential crisis. She wondered if her magic even mattered anymore. Meanwhile, Daphne was stranded in the frantic melee. Panic clouded her vision as a geist dove for her throat. She was cornered, screaming for help. Karak slammed into the beast, throwing it back with raw muscle and yelling at her to focus. "Fight back," he roared. Felicia, weaving her own spells, smirked. Everything was going according to plan. With a thunderous leap, she unleashes her magic, burying the monsters beneath a crushing mountain of stone. As the dust settles, a sea of carcasses remains. Felicia points out a sinister purple haze clinging to the fallen. Shutra misses it at first, but she explains the truth. This eerie glow is a manifestation of dark curse magic. It grants them unnatural strength by devouring their life force, leaving nothing but hollow, emotionless husks behind. Felicia concludes a puppet master is pulling the strings from the shadows. Shutra's mind races in confusion. They'd already slain the last mastermind, so who is this? Karak breaks his focus, pointing toward a trembling Daphne. She's been paralyzed by tension since the first strike. Karak realizes this might be the girl's true baptism of fire. Shutra nods grimly. This version of Daphne is a far cry from the battle-hardened warrior he once knew. The Dryad feels the spirit's sheer terror as the malevolent energy in the air begins to thicken and choke. The further north they push, the more Greenwind shivers, sensing a colossal darkness looming just ahead. Savage Eyes demands they reach the northern peak to unmask whatever nightmare is waiting for them. Shutra sighs. He only wanted the White Eagle, but now everything has spiraled into a chaotic mess. He relents, signaling the group to advance toward the border's ancient observation tower. Under a cold, starlit sky, the massive stone spire looms as the party scans the horizon from the summit. A pulsating ocean of purple energy emerges, surrounded by an army. Felicia whispers one terrifying word, a lich. Suddenly, Daphne collapses, her spirit buckling under the sheer, suffocating weight of that abyssal power. Carrick hauls her up, but she can barely speak. As a half-spirit, this malice hits her like a physical blow. Shutra realizes they're walking into a slaughter and orders an immediate tactical withdrawal. But before they can move, Felicia freezes her entire body, locking up in pure shock. Something is coming, she gasps, and it's heading straight for our position. Confused, Shutra frantically checks his holographic interface, desperate to identify the approaching threat. Red enemy pings flood his map surrounding them. Then Carrick's voice cracks as he points to the sky. Massive spheres of flame tear through the clouds, screaming down directly toward the tower's peak. Shutra's eyes widen in absolute horror. It's a trap. Everyone jump. Get out of the tower now. The meteors strike with the force of a god, triggering a blinding explosion that vaporizes the structure instantly. Stone and mortar disintegrate into a hellscape of fire as the tower crumbles under the enemy's watchful gaze. Amidst the rain of burning debris, Carrick roars, using his own massive frame to shield his comrades. Felicia's eyes sharpen like blades as she instantly weaves her wind magic into a protective barrier. She catches them mid-air, guiding them safely through the inferno as the world explodes around them. When the smoke finally clears, Felicia frantically searches for the prince, calling out his name. Shutra groans, but he's alive. Savage Eyes admits they'd all be cinders if not for her quick thinking. Save the thanks for later, she warns. We're completely surrounded by an endless sea of monsters. She commands them to hold the line, while she prepares a spell to shatter their formation. Shutra watches her jaw clenched in worry. He whispers her name, his heart racing as she charges her mana. Drawing his glowing dagger, Shutra vows to buy every second she needs. It's time to go all out. He activates Under the King's Banner, sending a massive wave of power coursing through his exhausted allies. Feeling the sudden surge of adrenaline, Greenwind stares in shock. You're actually going to stand and fight. Shutra's gaze is like iron. He has no choice but to trust Felicia with their lives. His Earthshaker gauntlet manifests, humming with destructive force. Brace yourselves, the real battle starts now. Cloaked in a radiant golden aura, the group charges headlong into the approaching tide of death. With a primal roar, Shutra leads the charge, refusing to back down. Carrick follows, fueled by the prince's aura. Carrick swings his massive axe while Savage Eyes blurs forward, his blade already thirsting for blood. Shutra tears through the skeleton ranks, detonating his explosion fist and sending a shockwave through the horde. Bone fragments fly everywhere, but the nightmare isn't over. The undead begin to stitch themselves back together. A floating skull with glowing violet eyes hovers before them, preparing to unleash a devastating counterattack. Shutra grinds his teeth, frustrated that his most explosive strikes aren't even putting a dent in the horde. This battle is a bottomless pit. Fresh skeletons keep crawling out of the dirt like a never-ending nightmare. Wave after ruthless wave crashes down. Shutra knows they'll be buried unless he snuffs out the commander pulling the strings. Out of nowhere, streaks of violet energy rain down, catching the prince's squad completely off guard. Agonized screams fill the air as dark magic sizzles through them. Carrick desperately tries to brace himself. The impact is brutal, making him roar in fury at the searing pain. Total chaos erupts under the purple fire. The warriors are left dazed and wide open. An elf collapses, groaning in sheer agony. That toxic purple mana clings to his skin like a curse. Then a massive shadow looms from the wreckage, dripping with malice. A Titangent-sized skeletal knight emerges, crowned and clad in obsidian armor, a literal walking nightmare designed to crush hope. Shutra's eyes lock onto him instantly. He's found it, the general, leading this literal army of the dead. Savage Eyes senses the moment and charges his battle cry, echoing as he lunges at the giant with zero hesitation. He strikes with everything he's got, but the knight parries like it's nothing, swiping him away like a pesky fly. One savage swing sends him reeling. Carrick bellows his name and rushes in to back him up, only to be flattened just as fast. Tossed aside by that bone-crushing power, he seethes in pain, absolutely livid that they're being overpowered so effortlessly. Shutra spots a window and blurs toward the behemoth. He scoffs, thanking the monster for coming within striking distance. Your journey ends here, he shouts, leaping high to deliver a devastating explosion fist right to the knight's core. The knight catches the punch bare-handed and slams him into the dirt. Shutra staggers up, coughing and gasping for air. The power gap is terrifying. It hits him, this monster isn't just strong, it's playing in a completely different league. Suddenly, Felicia steps up, telling him to back off and recover. The knight just watches her, eerily silent. He seems intrigued by her presence. Shutra's jaw drops. He has no clue what his sister is planning here. Standing tall, she draws a line in the sand, declaring with a lethal stare that she's taking over the fight. Hey, Skullface, come get some, she taunts, floating gracefully into the sky as mana begins to swirl. A massive magic circle ignites above her, and she lets loose a blinding energy beam that tears into the night. The beast howls in rage but stays standing, its heavy armor soaking up the blast before it charges her. It wants her dead, but Felicia stays icy, whipping the wind into another crushing gale. The night thunders forward. Its violet aura blazes with murderous intent, but Felicia doesn't even flinch. She's ready to face the storm. She matches its fury head-on, blinking instantly above the monster, while manifesting a dense, glowing sphere of pure destruction. Caught off guard, the knight can't react as she rains down energy orbs, each one hitting like a freight train. The monster shrieks in pain under the relentless barrage. Shutra is speechless. His sister is absolutely ragdolling this high-level boss. Suddenly, a new presence settles nearby. He turns to find Daphne standing right at his side. Glowing with a soft green light, she asks if he's okay, then immediately invokes her Dryad's blessing. A wave of healing surges through the team. Savage Eyes feels his wounds vanish, his grip tightening with a sudden burst of vitality. Carrick is bathed in the same emerald glow, feeling stronger than ever. Shutra smirks, relieved to see Daphne's support. She's finally using her owl blessing. Suddenly, a system alert pings he's reached. Boost, level